Yep.
Evening all. You thought you were on the beach and you thought you were rid of us, but you're wrong. We're still knocking about. We've already forgotten what FPL is. Alon is full-time on World Cup. We'll talk about that in just a second.
Yep.
But yeah, we're here for the post-mortem. How are you, Alon? It's lovely to have you back again.
I'm very good. It's funny how quickly I'm just like, I'm ready for World Cup. I'm ready for FPL next season. I'm not even bitter anymore. You caught me on the upswing.
It's quite fortunate, isn't it? Because by the way, if anyone hasn't already, you should have done. And if you haven't done, there's something wrong with you. But you should be sort of listening to FML's post-mortem from last week. It was last week.
Yeah, I think so.
It's terrific. Honestly, I'm not just blowing smoke up you or whatever, but it's one of my favorite pods of the year, and it's not even like take football out of the equation. It's just something I look forward to because it's just for anyone who hasn't heard one. Essentially, you and Walsh just collect your notes over a period of time. You know, I can just kind of imagine you with this sort of moleskin posh kind of wonderful notebook, scratching things out and whatever over the course of a year. And bringing them to the table for that kind of one look through before you forget it all and before you lose it all. And actually, it's probably something that we should all do. And in a way, this pod is basically that anyway. Like it's a kind of poor reflection of exactly what you do, blah blah blah. But yeah, if anyone doesn't, it's a really really good pod.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think it's our best work every season, probably.
Yeah. No, I get that because also it's the thing of. It reminds us, doesn't it, that when we get to July and August and we're full of hope again, but there's also something of that kind of lovely thing of, two friends just kind of almost sort of happy / bitter by the fireside with a couple of glasses of whiskey. There's that kind of feel about it. So
that is what it is. Yeah.
I like it. I like it very much. How are you this evening, Danny? Hopefully not too bitter.
No, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm not too bad. I was just thinking then, because I was watching Alon's and FML's post-mortem, and they were saying at the front, he's going on it again. Walter's like, we're going on that pod again. He's like, I always felt bad because he's like, are you leaving me? Is this like a slow breakup? I was just thinking, well, like Alon and FML are just the best at post-mortem and like reflection. They're the gods at it. So I was like, well, so of course we're going to get them on ours. And, like, that's what we do. Whoever's the best, just get them on. So yeah, it wouldn't feel right doing it without Alon, would it?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I'm good, thanks, mate. It's actually my birthday today, by the way. I didn't mention it.
What the hell? You kept that bloody quiet.
Holy.
I don't even like to tell anyone, but I thought, what if it comes out and they're going to think I'm really weird for not saying anything? And then, so I thought,
God.
The big 3-0, Danny, hitting 30.
Yeah, I wish, Jesus Christ.
Holy.
So it's a bit of a weird, like, uneventful birthday, but it's good to be, podding and just chatting with some mates. But thinking of other pods, I also won an above average mug last
look at that
few days ago. So this arrived like today or yesterday, I can't remember now. And I thought it was like a birthday present.
Happy birthday.
Like, so I thought I'd go all out. I've got the above average mug, and then I threw on the Wire t-shirt from the boys at the Wire.
Look at that.
There we go. Are we looking to drag in everyone else's fans tonight?
Yeah. All the retweets.
The chat seems to be interested in guessing your age, by the way. Rob, you'll be lucky to come back in
48.
Whereas
48.
Greg, we like Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Thank you.
I actually have no idea your guys' age, so this is fun for me.
Why don't you guess, Alon? Who do you think?
No, do not even guess.
Who do you think is older and younger?
I don't know. I think you're basically the same age or within a year. Like maybe like one is 37 and one is 38 or something like that.
Well, honestly, this is so. I don't think we know how old each other are. We've never actually said. We just talk and we just know that we're roughly around like. And I've got an idea. I think I'm not going to say on here, but we don't actually explicitly know each other's age. I don't think.
No.
So that's how it is these days, isn't it? I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm going to leave it out there for the chat to speculate. Yeah. I was about to answer that, but I was thinking, no, it's much more fun just to see how it was. Do you know what, Danny? I'm just going to tell you this story very briefly. A couple of years ago, I had like a student consultation or whatever you want to call it, and someone came in with their dissertation or whatever it was, and they were Italian, but they were just staying in the UK for their study and that sort of thing. And they said, oh, I thought you were like 26, 27. I was like, this isn't going to improve your grade. Obviously, he's wrong, sadly. But
It did
that
improve
wasn't.
the grade.
Yeah, it didn't. But well, there we go. Oh, before we move on, and I forget all about it, by the way, Danny, I don't know how. Well, we'll come to whether you are playing World Cup fantasy and that sort of thing.
Oh, right.
I'm one of those people that as soon as I'm offered any potential option to out and to have a summer and to not think about anything and to immediately sort of engulf myself in other interests, because I do actually have them, then I will take it. But Alon, you are leading the World Cup fantasy charge, and I wrongly said to Alon before this that I thought all Americans said World Cup rather than the World Cup, which apparently is not true. So apologies for all Americans for insulting you. I'll find some other way to do it instead. But yeah, apologies for that. But yeah, tell us all about that, Alan. Where are you at with that? You've just done your first one.
So the first episode will come out tonight from us. I mean, I think most of the FPL content creators already have their like YouTube videos where they're sort of speaking in YouTube voice. For us, it's very much like second tier FPL style. Like we are just vibesing it all the way. We don't even do individual teams. We just share a team because it's just too much. We can't give that much of a fuck. It's summer. You know, he's going on vacations. I'm going on vacations. You know, we can't watch every game. There's 100 games in 30 days or whatever. So we're just vibes, just getting guys we like, mostly not getting Premier League players because we just had them in FPL, 2 weeks ago or whatever. Just vibes, just pure vibes. The way football arguably should be. I mean, just looking for bangers and who's playing well and who's in confidence, who's high on confidence, and not worrying about I have to have Kane to captain him against this team or I'm gonna get out of my face with that. Get right out. So
nice. How about you, Danny? Are you into all that?
I mean, I wish I was. I mean, I'm just. I've said it last times, but I'm like an extreme, like all or nothing person. And as soon as I see these games where I can't stand games that are really interactive like this, where we make. I know I'd be wrong.
Subs.
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, like you literally make subs like in game and like during games. I'm like, I want to devote time to thinking about something and research something and strategize something, but then I want to step away and then just watch it happen and see how it unfolds. I don't want to be interacting with the game constantly and having to be there, and that's just way too much for me. And I just don't know enough like I'd have to research so much about the teams and stuff, and I've just all my sort of attention has gone to FPL and the Premier League, so it's kind of been taken away from everything else. Weirdly, when I was younger, I probably would have known a lot more about World Cup teams and just random teams.
I mean, straight up the jump, me and Walsh are like, so there's way too many teams and we don't know anything. And there's fucking Hades in the thing, Cape Verde, Curacao. There's all these countries where it's like they've never made the World Cup before because they expanded. Uzbekistan, Jordan. I'm just like, I don't know a single player on any of these teams. So there is a lot of that, but I hear you. I'm similar to you, and I'm butting heads always when it's like a World Cup because I just want to go so hard, and then I'm like, I'm not getting fucking Kane. Like everyone's captaining Mbappe. I'm like, come on, like grow up, dude, live a little, So in the end, that wins over, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, just briefly alluding to age and stuff. I do obviously my first memory of any World Cup, just to say quickly, is obviously, USA '94, wasn't it?
So how old were you then?
we're talking distant memory here, but it wasn't really like a football fan at that stage. But I do remember like this. I do remember a bit of the sticker books, and the stadiums were amazing, and the tune was amazing, and obviously I remember Romario and Roberto Baggio, and Roberto Baggio is like one of the most underrated players ever lived, I think. So good memories, good place. But yeah, I've heard it's like extortionate prices to get into every game and stuff this year.
Absurd, absolutely.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it's going to be necessarily like, I don't know, great crowds at every stadium. I don't know, maybe it will be, but
I still think it will be because I just think people are fucking mental. And, if they're flying over from the Democratic Republic of Congo, then they're going to go to their games. They're not going to not go to the games when they see the price,
True.
But who knows? I mean, the one thing that this country has is big stadiums all over the fucking place. So we just have every city has like an 80,000 person stadium minimum.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have good venues for games. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're not playing them, Rich, no?
No. You know me. I'm as soon as you offer me some kind of ticket just to focus on other things. You know, I've been to the theatre about 3 times in the last week. You know? Yeah. So yeah, Dangerous Liaisons at the weekend. If anyone's interested at the National, very good. Anyway, don't worry about that. It's fine. It probably won't land much here. Let's kick off by saying I have a little bit of a hello to our chat. We were talking, Alon, about the fact that because we stream every week. You know, we have a regular crowd of lovelies to say hello to. People wanted a mug for guessing your age, Danny. Mikey was suggesting closest guess wins an LR mug. Kevin Kehoe, closest guess wins a mini bottle of lavender spray. Well, on that, we'll come to that in just a second. And plenty of other people are in this evening as well. Hello, Greg. I haven't said hello to you for a while. Phobo, very good. And plenty of other people beside. Bebe the Legend. There. I should have mentioned, by the way, that if you are from Cape Verde, a ticket cost is probably going to be like half a year's salary or something. That must be incredibly difficult. So
mental. I'm going to one game. It's probably one of the least glamorous matches you could ever get, and it's because I got to hook up with someone who had tickets at face value and whatever. Still very expensive, but it's Curacao versus Cote d'Ivoire, and it's still really expensive, and yeah, and it's like the smallest nation who's ever qualified for the World Cup.
I was going to say, I mean, I consider myself to be quite adept with all things world geography, and I'm a little struggling to remember anything about that place at all. yeah, not really.
Well, all their best players have basically always played for the Netherlands. Now this is a new thing that they're competing in sports with, their own team. So that's kind of why they've never been involved. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking that they even made it,
Right, we'll get cracking for 2 reasons. Because one, we always keep on Alon for longer than we're supposed to. He's been working hard on other pods anyway. Plus, I have had a tooth extraction recently, and if I talk for very long, then my mouth may well fall off because it is sore fairly permanently at the moment. But anyway, let's have a quick. I don't know why I put those pictures there. Oh yeah, it was because there's 2 reasons. One, someone sent in a question and said, "How is it possible to look that sexy in green shorts?"
I'm not looking sexy there at all. Come on, give me a break.
Clearly, people feel differently in the chat. I think some people have sort of popped off to the bathroom with a flannel after saying that. To be honest, and the bottom one was created by our regular viewer FPL Easy, who was asking. Admittedly, last week was the hot week here. I don't know if the temperatures are hot where you are, but it's Easy was asking how we keep cool in the summer. It is the highest recorded temperatures in the UK last week were in Kew Gardens, and I live in that area, so it's a bit of a nightmare, really. But I can tell you as well, whatever they said, it was higher than that here.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you. Yeah,
because it's usually they record it in the shade in the botanical gardens, right? So it's as soon as you get away from all that, it's pretty punishing.
Tough.
So yeah, it is pretty tough. So the answer, Easy, is basically just hide as best you can and hope. Is the best I can offer you.
Shade and cold drinks and
yeah, exactly. But yeah, definitely better than the last place I live around the corner there. That was unbelievable. I couldn't sleep. Anyway, yes, on this, we have some celebration time for Matthew Nuttall. Look at that. He won the mini league. I haven't updated it properly in terms of those points there. I can't remember how much he actually won for. But he was top for quite a while going into this, and he sent me a postal address, which I'm glad to say is in England, so I don't have to spend any more than I need to. And this bottle of lavender pillow mist will be winging its way to you, Matthew. So congratulations. A round of applause for Matthew from the chat, please. Thank you very much. Well done to him. And I don't know where he finished in the world, but it's really high. It's in the kind of 3 100 or something like that. Matt will probably tell us, but it was an incredible achievement. So that doesn't come certainly entirely by luck anyway. So well done. And also shout out to the others there. Nick S in second, Joe Keller, Benji Yag, Mike Evans and Mike Cox. So Mikeys do well in this chat. So if you're called Mikey or Michael, just keep coming back because you're likely to win. Manager of the week last week, Packet of Biscuits. He's no more, of course, in the Premier League. I don't know how well he's doing in Brazil. I don't think he's got off to a great start. He's out of the Brazil World Cup squad, isn't he? So he's not done terrific. With the poshest name I think we've ever had on this podcast, Lindsay Piat or Piat Nichols. I'm going to say Piat just because it sounds vaguely Russian. I enjoy saying that sort of thing. But 71 points last week, so well done to you. There will be a mini league again next year, so make sure you join nice and early. I'm not going to say it was easy to win because it definitely wasn't, but there were, we cut it off mid-season, so it's a very achievable but like prize in a sense to win in comparison to some, so that's good. But yes, this bottle of I do actually recommend lavender pillow spray as well. It does help. For all you who struggle with sleep you should protect. A very important thing. We'll just have a quick reflect on our season. We're going to keep it really quick. I have used this Adobe type thing, and I can just tell you now, by the way, they're not paying us. I'm sure they probably were other people because I saw those all over the place. Sorry, Danny.
I was just going to say, I don't know if we already said, we need to tell Matthew to actually give him his address, because actually send this way. Oh, you've got it. Oh, sweet. Oh, sorry. My bad.
Yeah, no, we've shared a latte. We've towered each other off. We're honestly at that level of relationship. We feed each other sandwiches. It's that kind of thing. But yes, I won't say where he lives because I'm sure that would be problematic. But he lives in the west of England somewhere, and it'll be winging its way in that direction. So, in fact, hopefully he's got an accent that will please you, Alon. I know we've been discussing.
I hope so.
UK-based accent. I don't know if viewers actually think that Danny and I have an accent here. I'm that sort of. I probably sound more like a posh spaz than I actually am. I can guarantee you I'm not. And Danny is probably also not as gritty as he may come across. He might sound sort of hard, like he's had to battle against it. I suspect it's been it's not quite as bad as all that. But Alon, I'm not going to keep you to many questions about your kind of season generally, because the little quiz that I've organised will do that, and that's much more fun, isn't it? You like a good quiz.
Yeah, I love that.
But I mean, I don't know. Are you one that does like to look on all of these tools? I mean, I myself have put the quiz together from FPL Optimized and FPL Reviews tool and one other I can't remember. I will shout out in the chat if I need to. But do you like to do that? Do you pick over the bones? Obviously, you do your own post.
Yeah, a bit. Like I find that there's probably like 10 different websites now that all sort of do their like season summary, whatever. And I think maybe 9 out of 10 are just like kind of useless bullshit. But every once in a while, you find a thing that's like, this is an actionable mistake, or this is actually interesting despite our different finishes. We have, similar captaincy points or something like that. And it's useful when comparing to other teams. But I think a lot of the like sort of just individual, like, you made 36 transfers. I'm like, that's just meaningless. Like it's different every season. It doesn't matter really. But yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's nice to look a little bit, right?
And dare I say, did you come out of it feeling satisfied with your? I mean, do you have any kind of those sort of overarching feelings about how it all finished off in the last week, or more generally, or do you not carry it too much?
I saved a transfer in Game Week 38, so I'm already ahead of you guys because I'm gonna have 2 frees in Game Week 2 next season. Always roll. It's who you own. It's not who you don't own. I think that the glass half full kind of thing of my post-mortem since the last, since like digesting it sort of a week ago or whatever, is sort of like, well, we'll get to like transfer success and transfer failure because you asked me to prepare that ahead of time, Richie. But most of my transfer failures are I owned X player before they were good picks, or before, sorry, not before they were good picks, before they got points, which is very different from being good pick. and then I sold them before they got their points. So in a way, the glass half full take is like, I saw this before anyone else saw this, and I should have just held it, and I would have had, a ton more points from holding the guys, and I just was impatient, right? I think we said on the post-mortem, like, Foden was a good example, right? I got him way before everyone. I got him in game week 6. And he didn't start scoring double-digit hauls every week until game week 13. But he played 90 in every game leading up to that, though. And I sold him before all the double-digit hauls. And, yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like I'm doing something right, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm doing something right because I did get nailed Foden, and I bought him because he was playing 90. And that stayed true, right? And then I sold him for a different reason, which is the mistake part of it. I sold him. He was still playing 90. He was still nailed. He was still playing well, roughly. And then I sold him because he blanked, which is like the bad intake of data or information that I should try and ignore, like the blanks.
I should also thank you for 2 reasons. Season review. Oh God, I've just seen that you've got a coffee, and I would have absolutely murdered one of those.
It's 1 p.m. here, 1:45 p.m. here. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would not sleep if I did that.
Yeah.
But 2 reasons. One is that in reviewing, kind of because I put you, me, and Danny into a kind of pot in order to kind of work up like where we did certain things right, wrong, or whatever. You've created some of the most interesting and bizarre ends of your season in comparison, because I've marked all of what we did up against the Elite 1K.
Oh yeah, let's go. Mine's just gonna be like, what the hell was he doing?
But it's really fun. And the other reason is because I remember you said on the post-mortem pod the other day that if only you had done the ability to do what did you like, a relay where you do the first
relay race. Oh my God.
Hand over. And it got me thinking, like, about, if only we could sort of build an incredible sort of hybrid manager. We could take FPL Harry's luck. Only joking, Harry. Not personal. We don't believe it, really. We know you're sort of 3rd best manager in the world or something. But yeah, I sort of think like my own self. I was thinking about this earlier, and I was looking at my review. And I was like, do you know what? Actually, we can all beat ourselves up a bit. I looked at mine. I'm like, I actually think I've played pretty well this season. Except if Danny had basically slapped me about 3 times across the season, I'd have been comfortably where I would be relatively happy. But for whatever reason, maybe on 3 parts in a 3 weekends in a season, I go off somewhere, or I get ill, or I stop listening to anything sensible, just do something whimsical, and then it all goes kind of blithely wrong. So there's that. That's what happens. It's me next. Nothing much to kind of add to these kind of graphics, really, but we'll just... the last week for me, I had this situation. I don't know whether you, Danny, but you already had 1 transfer, and of course we did that thing. It was in the least uncomfortable I've been in a final weekend. I wasn't relying on public library Wi-Fi. I wasn't in North Norfolk, 10 miles to the nearest town. I was here decorating, so I was able to slip off for kind of half an hour. In theory, that would have been good, but I only had 1 transfer, and about 7 players crept up as being a problem straight away. They would roll in like ticker tape. It's like Cherky, O'Reilly, Jokeres, and you're like, fuck, what can I do? And so, but I got as lucky as one could be, bringing in Bowen, which obviously, as you can imagine, I know that it's been a week to absorb it now, but that was a pretty horrendous weekend anyway, like regardless of FPL, and it's pretty difficult to take. By the way, chat, you can help me out with this. I obviously need a new Premier League team to use my badge for next season. So if you want to suggest who I have to pretend to support next year, I have some vetoes. It's never going to be Chelsea. I can tell you that now for a second. So it's not them. That's the absolute veto. And realistically, it's not going to be Spurs for obvious reasons as well. But I will take your suggestions. At the moment, I live closest to Brentford, so maybe I could be one of those guys who pretend to support Brentford. But there you go. But yeah, nothing much more to add on that. How was your oh, and I got Captain Bruno, so that was something anyway.
That's
something
good,
out of the fire. But there was a lot of 1-pointers, sadly. Danny, how was your end? So you've a little bit of a healthier finish, I think it's fair to say. I nosedived at the end, sadly. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, it was probably I didn't really look at rank much in the last few weeks. I just knew that every week was crap. And then the last week was decent, decent last week. Got a green arrow or whatever. But yeah, it's just funny because I'd also like checked out. I'm not interested. I was like, whatever. I was top 100k. I was thinking, well, I suddenly realized, oh my god, I could actually like fall out of top 100k given where I've been all season. I've had such a weird season, by the way, which I'm sure we'll get into. Such a strange and annoying, frustrating, and weird season. But yeah, I like went into it just obviously not caring, and as you always do with FPL, I genuinely thought there isn't any way that I can get annoyed today now because it's all done. And you should never say that because, of course, there's always a way. It will always find a way to destroy you and your entire existence and your whole weekend. And I was just like, so putting the team together, I was actually really calm. I had 2 free transfers. I was seeing the leaks come through, and because I didn't care, I was really calm, really logical. I knew who I really liked as players this week. I liked Bowen, I liked Gibbs White, I liked Palmer. And I had 2 transfers. I like Mavropanos and stuff like that. But it was like the way my team was looking was, unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to get a defender because it didn't really make sense with my team, etc., etc. So I was like, right, Haaland's out. That's nice and calm. I'm just going to sell him. Because also one lesson, by the way, I'll just quickly go on a tangent of very quickly, was a lot of times this season, we've kind of found out a player's been benched or probably benched or minutes are really hit, That's probably one thing I haven't done enough. Is prepared for that enough. And because I don't like that sort of game, I don't like waiting for leaks, and I kind of always just assume we won't get them because I don't want to entertain that idea. So I need to prepare more. So there's been a few times this season where, for example, if I know a player's going to be benched, even if it's Haaland and he's at home to Burnley, if he's benched, don't play him. Just and be ready so that if you make transfers, you've actually got time to put him on the bench. I remember one week I didn't actually have time to bench him because it was like a minute left to think. You know what I mean? So, etc., etc. So that's an important lesson I hadn't really thought about yet. Is several times this season is be more prepared with paths and stuff like that for these bloody stupid leaks. So anyway, I was dead calm, and as I say, I just thought, well, again, I'm just going to go with who I really like this weekend, and it was always going to be Gibbs White or Palmer, basically. I went with Gibbs White, and because I just felt good about it. Obviously, they both scored, and they actually both scored 9 points, which is funny.
Yeah.
But the reason, I was sitting in a beer garden, so I'd missed all the morning, and I couldn't, I had to go outside because Darcy hadn't left the house all morning because of the stupid FPL. So basically, I had to miss all the actual football. So I'm sitting in a beer garden just watching the updates, and it was funny because it was like so many other weeks for me this season have been where I've actually felt like my team's okay, and then some of my decisions have been really good. So within 10 minutes or whatever it was, Gibbs White and Semenyo, by the way. So that was another thing. Semenyo, I just calmly held him the whole time. You know what I mean? I hadn't sold him. I felt good about him. Semenyo had scored. I knew loads of people didn't own him anymore. Gibbs White had already scored. And you're thinking, oh, this is nice. This is what it's like to players score points again. You think you've made some nice decisions. And then it was like, and I was moaning to Rich, I think, at the time, because again, it was like so many times this season I've done that, but then one other decision has cost me like 10, 15, 20 points, whether it's captaincy, whether it's benching someone. So suddenly Bruno Fernandes was on 14 points and I had Bowen captain. And I was absolutely seething. I was like, I didn't think I could get pissed off again. And it's the fact that it's the same shit happening that's happened to me every week. And I was thinking that 2 good decisions and they've both been erased. Semenyo gone, Gibbs White gone. Yep. So I really was like, I was just like, I'm so fed up of this season. So anyway, obviously Bowen thankfully managed to get a goal and assist right at the end of the game to sort of save that. I was just like, Jesus Christ. But, anyway, so it's just a quick lesson in the fact that it will always find a way to piss you off. Yeah. And this week, somehow I got away with it, finally. But yeah, I mean, I'll just say quickly, go on, Rich, do you want to say something there just quickly? Or I was going to say.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say really quickly, like looking at these, I'm looking at these for the first time, this sort of season review. And it is actually really interesting. And I was just staring at Alon's when he first put it on the screen. And there's so much in there, isn't there? And I mean, the thing that I suppose jumped out at me looking at the difference between mine now for the first time and Rich's compared to Alon's was, I think I got like 100 more points from Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
And nearly 50 points more from Haaland.
Yeah, I think there was. I mean, it's hard to remember anything, right? But there were some weeks with both of those players where they were captained by like what felt like 90%, but it was probably 65% or whatever, however you want to look at it. And I was going for a differential, and it never worked. It just never happened. Like I'm captaining Palmer, home, worst team in the league, whatever, and he gets 1 point, and Chelsea draw 0-0, and Bruno gets a penalty and 2 assists, and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Kind of like what you were just describing, Danny. It just felt like the season where you like should just never not do what everyone else is doing, because you will just get max punished.
It did, because I felt like that. So you must have felt, looking at that, you must have felt like it's so much more. I mean, because every time it happened to me, obviously I captained Gyökeres, which was stupid, but at that point in the season I'd given up. But like Cunha game week 2 or 3, whatever it was, and he gets stretched off after 20 minutes, and there was so many times this season as well for me.
So many
where I captained someone else, just because I'm quite a sort of an aggressive player usually in a way, and quite a bit of an optimist, and I like to make logical, sort of logical bets. But every single one of them, like you say, every single one of them didn't work out this season. It really was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, even Haaland's a great example, right? I mean, because for a long stretch in the middle of the season, like he was not a great pick and not a great captain, right? And then starting exactly in the double game week in 33 is when he hit form again. That was the exact moment. So everyone remembers it like, you're an idiot. Obviously, you should have captained Haaland in the double game week. It's fucking Haaland. But if you look, like, for months before that, he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't playing well. City weren't playing well. He barely had, a couple goals here and there. And then it went goal, assist, blank, goal. Starting exactly in the double game week. So it looks like, are you crazy? You didn't captain the best pick in the game in a double game week? And it's like, well, now it sounds crazy, but at the time it was kind of like, I could see O'Reilly outscoring him, or whoever. I think I captained O'Reilly, whoever it was. But in hindsight, it was ridiculous, and again, maximum punished.
Before we head over to the quiz, I have to just highlight this message in the chat, Alon. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think the answer's no, hovering squid. But I thought this was quite funny. Before I go over to the quiz that I've made, Alon, you're the most Nordic-looking person I've ever seen. Are you perchance? Also, the use of perchance for someone from the Faroe Islands, in my head, is like, well, that's a very English choice of phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, you perchance Norwegian. So
here's my assumption: is there's not many Ashkenazi Jews in the Faroe Islands, because I am pure Ashkenazi Jew, and I look like it, and I sound like it, and everything, and that's 100% of my background. I've never done one of those like DNA tests or whatever.
You say that, but at some point, a distant relative just went on a little boat trip to Norway, and
it's possible.
Had a little holiday romance.
Yeah, man, it's possible. I mean, it was probably the other way around. Right? Probably a Viking went on a little boat trip, and
a bit of a raiding. I think I said this the other day. I genuinely was finished listening to your post-mortem on a run, as I often do near here by the river, and the pod finished, right? And it went straight into a pod about how the Orkney Islands were the center of Viking violence in like whatever century it was. So that it was the most bizarre kind of set of podcasts next to each other ever. It was one of those great ones. I'm going to do a little bit of, and you can play along in the chat, but I'll be doing a quick sort of season review quiz before we go on to answer some of your questions in just a minute. But this didn't make it into the quiz, by the way. But I think the worst thing to look at that I've noticed, I can't remember which of the websites it was on, was it tells you which was your best and the worst streak of the season. I don't know if you've had this. Like
best
the weeks,
green arrows.
The weeks that you have like 3 or 4 great weeks in a row, and the ones that you do badly. And I don't know whether you remember this. So Danny, I'll just read them out because it's not part of the quiz. Danny had his best streak game weeks 11 to 16. His worst between 22 and 25. Alon, yours were the best 18 to 22, and worst 12 to 15. Mine, yeah, this will just tell you the full story of the season. The best streak was game week 2 to 7, right at the beginning. Yeah. The worst was game weeks 34 to 38. I mean, you can imagine, Danny. Honestly, my rank, by the way, was about 3 times better, and then the last 4 weeks just dropped because of bloody Cherky and Jokeres and all these terrible transfers. I'm sure a lot. I mean, I don't think I was alone. I know, Danny, you did the DCL to Jokeres one, which was one of the more painful ones, but the Cherky one, obviously, was definitely the worst. So that was Anyway, let's play along in the chat if you want to. Danny, as a fellow educator, would you like the answers after each question, or do you want them stacked up until the end?
After each.
After each, I agree with that. So you can write them down. You write down whether you got the answer or not, or if you want to play along in the chat.
I won't know anything. I'll be useless at this. I don't think about details of my season. I just think.
I got a pen and paper.
A lot of these, by the way, it's you against the typical Elite 1K manager. So I'll explain where that makes a difference. But this one, it doesn't make a difference. How many times did you roll a transfer in the season? So, like, how many game weeks did you roll a transfer? I'm assuming this excludes like chip weeks. God. You could guess for the other managers if you want as well, but. So how many transfers did you roll? Let's go to Danny first.
How many weeks did I roll a transfer? Yeah, and he just didn't spend a transfer. Wow.
Tough.
It's got to be. Oh God, that's tough. It's got to be somewhere between like 8 and 10 ish. I would think. So I'll go. It's probably quite a lot. I'll go.
Well, because there's 2 free hits, 2 wild cards.
Yeah, they don't count,
and
so
it can't be a game week
take
1.
those weeks out. Yeah, so you take the chips out.
Yeah, you're out of like 33.
Yeah,
and then.
Oof. Okay, I mean, I can tell you. Go on. I'll let you finish.
I'll say 8. Might be 9. I don't know. Okay. I might be being generous to myself. I'll say 8. No,
you did say between 8 and 10, so I don't know if that leans you at all.
Okay, I'll just go 9. I'll just go 9.
Go for 9. Alon?
For me, I was going to guess Danny would be higher. I was going to say Danny maybe like 12 or 13, and me in the single digits, like maybe 7 or something.
So I can tell you, Alon rolled 11 times.
Oh.
Which is an impressive level of self-restraint from Alon.
1/3 of the possible weeks.
Danny was spot on between 8 and 10. He had 9.
Wow.
And I rolled the same as Alon, so I rolled 11 times.
Wow.
Which I thought was quite surprising, by the way.
Does that include my game week 38 roll?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe,
I didn't make a transfer in game week 38.
Maybe, but that's quite interesting, and that feeds into question 2. Who racked up out of us? So you have to guess who do you think got the most? Who racked up the most 2+ transfers on the most occasions? So what I mean by that is who got to like 2, 3, 4 transfers on the most occasions.
Oh, okay.
And now the difference is with this question, by the way, is it's against the Elite 1K. So basically, the best person has the biggest percentage against the Elite 1K. That doesn't make any difference, really. So,
okay.
Yeah. Who racked up the most? So, we'll go to Alon first this time. Out of us 3, who do you think who racked up the most multiple?
I think it's you, Richie.
Danny?
So you mean the most times, like 3 or more transfers? Is that what you mean?
3+.
Yeah, you got up to like at least. It says 2+, so 3, 4, 5.
Okay, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'll say you, Rich.
I can tell you, by the way, this is not close at all. And the answer is Alon.
What the fuck am I doing? What did I do all goddamn season?
I thought Alon knew like his own season way
I
better
guess
than
not.
we know ours.
You know,
no, this is incredible.
How checked out I was. I mean, I didn't even make moves. I was just bad. I was just getting red arrows, not even making transfers.
Your percentage against the Elite 1K. This is why I said thank you for your team data. You
My pleasure.
you were the 99th percentile, so you are like
Look at me.
crazy. Yeah.
I'm the
Which I
goat.
assume is, I mean, maybe I've got this wrong, and is it bad? Did you roll the least, and then I've got this completely the wrong around? But probably not.
No, you're probably right.
I got
Yeah.
8%, which is obviously, which must be either shit or I've been really good. I don't know what we're around this, but Danny, you're in the middle with 43. So that's the most confusing question. So we'll move on.
That's
Who
crazy.
took the most hits?
But hold on, I want to sit on that for a second because I think the leap that I would make from that percentage is that I'm maybe the worst at evaluating my own team because though most of those weeks I must have thought my team's good. Like I could get insert guy, but most of those weeks I must have just been thinking my team's good. My guy on the bench is good. Like I have one guy hurt, but it doesn't matter. I have blah 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 coming in, and I was obviously wrong. My season was pathetic, but
Or
is that what I'm meant to be believing? I don't know.
maybe Walsh hasn't done his job properly, and he you know, he's supposed to be your guy in your corner, and
He's
so
more
he
like
needs to up his game.
he supports me. He doesn't tell me like that's stupid, don't do that. You know, we try and like let each other cook. Yeah.
We talked a lot last season, didn't we? I mean, and we will again today about, and you know, because I was always kind of espousing this kind of thing about the power of rolling transfers, you know, and about it's who you said that you've repeated the same things today, like when you said
that's a Danny quote.
Yeah, and it's who it's who you own and not who you don't own, or whatever. And I just think that you've just I don't want to say taken on board as if I was right. I just think you have learned that and got a lot better at that single strategy. It's just mixed.
So.
It's just obviously mixing the strategies with actually having the right players, and I mentioned about timing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think the way to look at that is you take that single kind of perspective, that single skill, however you do it, and you just keep it, and you just try and move the other pieces in line with it. Like that patience is huge. I mean, you just talk about transfers, like just think about it, right? Because again, I know there's a bit of like I said this, blah blah blah. I'm trying to remember what I was saying and the way I still think. Right, the power of rolling a transfer. Like I always say, because I heard the way I say it this way, and I was saying it last year and the year before. I've heard them saying, try to view a transfer like it is making a move. You are making yourself stronger compared to everyone else every time you roll a transfer. So regardless of anything else, the power percentage, if you like, the win percent. If it was like a game of chess, like when you've got like a win percentage chance of going. As soon as you don't make a move, before anything else happens, before a ball's kicked, you go up a bit because you're just stronger. You are just stronger. You have more flexibility, more ability to adapt. Your squad is safer. So it is a move in itself. I mean, look at this season, right? We now have 5 transfers in a way that we never did before.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Also,
we got AFCON. We got the AFCON transfers, a whole 5 transfers, right? And yet still, how many times this season have, for example, all of us wished we had more transfers?
Oh yeah.
Because we're talking about all these occasions where we had multiple transfers, and this is kind of a takeaway for me. I mean, especially the AFCON stuff, you can't help but think, well, I do have more than normal. There is a lot, there's more, and the transfers are so important. I mean, I was trying to say the same thing to myself earlier in the season about just holding them, keeping yourself strong. One of the things is like when you were talking to Rich about those numbers, and for example, me, and maybe not rolling as many times as you might have thought, and so on and so on. Well, in terms of my kind of subjective memory of it as well, was that when I did have multiple transfers, say 4 or 5, a couple of times, I essentially made a bet, and a bet that I'm not sure I necessarily regret. And I need to think about what this means. But I essentially made a bet where I, for example, saw a team and a structure to move to, which I think is a really powerful thing, by the way, in the game, where I thought I was seeing something before everyone else in terms of players to get in and a structure to move to. That basically cost me like 4 transfers. I think it was 4 or 5 transfers to do it at the time. And that bet was like, it involved KDH, it involved having Saka, it involved, I I don't know, certain players that are all in certain positions that really maximize like flexibility and squad structure and all that. But it was the wrong bet. You know, it was a big bet to make because the second I did that, I surrendered all of my strength. And when you do that, it's got to work well for like 3 or 4 weeks minimum so you can build the transfers back up. And if it doesn't, you're basically fucked. So in terms of my ability to roll, my normal game, the reason why I rolled some fewer times was partly because the 2, maybe 3 occasions when I spent multiple transfers in one go to make a bet on what I thought was really sensible or reasonable bet to make to give me the chance of really going up by getting a really good team in. I mean, the one that first example, it went wrong because KDH got injured within 30 minutes of the first game. He was like 4.9 midfielder, so a lot hinged on him. Saka was just crap, basically all season, and I didn't identify that soon. A couple of players got injured, you know what I mean? So, so what I'm saying is,
that doesn't mean it was wrong.
Yeah, so
sorry to interrupt you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's wrong. But what I am saying is you have to be prepared for the consequences of a bet that can go wrong in a fragile game.
Yes.
And so because of those occasions, I was basically always behind because I had to correct that team. Every week you only get 1 transfer. Loads of things go wrong. So every week I was like surviving, and it just pummels your rank. It pummels your strength, your flexibility. So yeah, I don't necessarily regret it because I think those type of moves can win you FPL. They can win you the game. It's just identifying a structure and going. I remember one year, Late Riser, like the year that he finished like 30th in the world. It was just before we started talking a lot and became friends.
Yeah.
He would just post his team on Twitter, like just after deadline, just like, this is what I did. No one knew anything. He didn't have a podcast or anything like that. And I remember it was 2021 and it was in like October and he just wildcarded and he posted his team and it was nothing like anyone else's team, but he'd made this bet on the structure. It had Lundstrom, it had Wan-Bissaka, it had 4 million defenders. I remember it really well because I remember looking at it going, because I'd only just started really playing seriously at that point, like a couple of years. Now, first of all, I thought, wow, that's nothing like anyone else's team online. And I thought he's just made a bet there on what structure he thinks will work. And of course, it was a perfect bet. It almost won in the game. So anyway, I know that's a bit of a ramble, but you see what I'm saying? Like that. As soon as you said I didn't roll enough, and I knew it was because the occasions when I did make the multiple transfers at one go, it just went wrong. It went about as wrong as it could go. And I've got to find that balance now between still wanting to make that bet and being prepared to do it,
and
but
it's
really understanding, how much
so hard, right? Like last time I was on with you guys on the post-mortem, I said like, we're playing 38 poker hands, right? And if we continue with that analogy, it's almost like every time you roll, you draw a card. And the goal is to make your best poker hand, right? So you have 3 of a kind or something in your hand. You're holding 3 of a kind. It's like, I could play that, but I could also draw into something stronger, right? Because you're piling resources. Eventually, you do have to play a hand, right? The transfers are meaningless if you just sit on 5 frees all season. You're going to do really badly. So it's hard to know, like, when is the hand good enough? How many cards should I lay down so that I still have some stuff in my hand? I still have some flexibility, right? For another hand, it's tricky. It's really tricky.
Yes, that's an interesting point because I think in my case, like I'm also thinking back to 2 or 3 of the worst points of the season for me, and it's where I made the big bets and they all went wrong.
Yeah.
As you say, I can think of a couple of occasions where I used like all 4 transfers, and it led to kind of But it's that's an interesting point. Just for the benefit of the chat, by the way, that was quiz question 2 of 8. So I'm going to have to whip through these pretty quickly.
It's a 5-hour pod.
I was going to say we've got loads of questions after this, so just bear that in mind.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, we'll do. As Alon says, it's never too late in the season or too early, depending on where you are.
The second 5 hours of this episode will be on patreon.com/whatever.
So anyway, question 3. Who took the most hits? And you can also guess who took the least hits out of the 3 of us, if you like. So who took the most hits? Who took the least hits? So we'll come to Danny first. I'll try and be quicker about the answer.
Okay, I'll try and be quicker. I'll guess that I took the least, and I will guess. I know Rich got several times unlucky and had to make kind of hits he didn't want to make. Maybe certainly remember two or 3 or something. This is really tough. Okay, I'll say me the least, and I'll go Alon most still.
I think I'm most.
Over to Alan.
I think I'm most, and I think Richie least would be my guess.
Alon is spot on. I took
go.
0 hits this season,
0?
which I was very
Really?
pleased with. I took none at all. And this
So you
which
talked
is
about
why
him and
when I
didn't
was
take
looking
him?
through it, I thought I did, like, from that point of view, I was quite happy with myself. I kept a strong squad the whole season.
Nice.
Never needed a hit.
Yeah.
The last,
Oh.
I would have taken one. By the way, I should just qualify this. I tried to take one on the last day. It didn't go through.
It didn't go in.
But it would have been Morgan Gibbs White, and it would have worked. So it's
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
I
Danny
didn't
took
take a
1.
lot.
Alan took 4, and I took 0. So
Yeah, I
mean,
knew. I
even
knew. I
4
knew.
is, not that
I knew.
much.
I knew I'd only taken 1 because obviously you don't forget these things. But obviously I
okay.
misremembered.
Yeah.
Misremembered Rich. I thought it was a safe bet going for the guy who made 1.
Yeah, 1 is pretty low.
injury related.
Same.
So out of the 3 of us, who had the most captain points against the Elite 1K? So if you imagine, if you beat the Elite 1K, you'd be like 99, 100%. If you did the worst, you got like 1. So who got the most captain points out of the 3 of us, and who got the least?
I'll say Alan got the least because we just talked about what he just said, and I could see it from those from the
that's
guys. Like,
nailed.
That's
Nailed.
Absolutely nailed.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to say Rich got the most because I made a few, like, gambles. I for example, I know that because these ones sticking. I know I went Cunha, he got stretchered off, and Rich didn't. Rich went Bruno that week, stuff like that. So I remember things like that. So I just go Rich. I don't know.
I'm gonna say you got the most, Danny, because you finished the highest. That's my entire basis.
So Alon against the Elite 1K was 1.4%, which means
Come
sadly
on.
not too good. But
don't forget I rolled transfers at a 99% rate.
You did very good.
Yeah.
Danny got 19.3, so he was pretty unlucky as well. I got 79.1%.
Oh.
So
Wow.
yeah, boring wins, baby.
Beautiful.
I can't believe how bad mine was there, man. This is what
19 is crazy because you finish. What'd you finish? 50K or something?
Like 75 or something.
70K. Like, that's good. And you were 19% against captaincy?
That's both shocked me and slightly kind of. I feel pretty gutted about that because I'm not.
You just listen to me every week. I mean, what the
no, but
hell's
I'm generally like. I generally make very sensible captaincy choices, apart from the odd, real. So I can remember. I can remember the 3 times the odd sort of calculated one, which were all bad, basically, which is fine. I went for a really big leap because it wasn't just Gyökeres. It was Gyökeres, Cunha. I also captained Salah. That weekend that he got benched. So all 3 of them terrible decisions.
Before AFCON? Like I can't remember.
Recently, it was quite recent. I would never do that sort of move early on in the season. I was just I'm not really bothered about finishing 70K. So there were all the calculated risks went as badly as they could possibly go. But I mean, I'm still shocked because I remember things like, there were lots of still like good weeks in there. And I remember one, for example, in terms of being happy. I remember one where nearly everyone went for Bruno because he was highest on the models, and it was like at home to West Ham. And I just really fancied Haaland away at Fulham, and I just wasn't having it. I remember that one, and a lot of people didn't do that, and Haaland got like 2 goals and 2 assists or something stupid. So to still get 19 percentile is that's terrible. This is what I mean. My season's been weird.
Very weird.
It begs the question what the hell was happening in the rest of my squad. I don't know, but safer territory next, you might say. Who had the best minutes in their squad?
Meaning what? I don't know what that means.
So what I mean by that is, like, for every time you put out an 11, which one of us got the best sort of minutes per player ratio or something?
I had spoiler alert, I had a shit ton of auto subs this year for very, very few points. So I'm going to say mine's the worst. I feel pretty good about that.
Is like, because that'll probably count captaincy as well then, won't it? So as double. So like points, minutes are probably double for captaincy on that. Because I'm just wondering, that'll be a big blow for mine. Like if I've got captains who didn't even play, that'll.
Well, I also
I don't know.
Mo when he was benched. I captained Palmer when he didn't play the second game.
I'm gonna
O'Reilly when he didn't play a game. Yeah.
I'm still gonna go because I'm thinking about a couple of transfers that I guess we'll talk about that I didn't make, that lots of other people did make, that I thought were bad minutes transfers, and I didn't make them and they went well. So I'm going to say that I'm going to go me for the highest.
Okay, so Danny top with 74% against the Elite 1K, so that's very,
Nice.
very good.
Nice.
I'm kind of right in the middle of us generally, 37.5, so not good, because that was it probably would have been about 50% if it wasn't for Turkey, basically.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe a bit better than 50% thinking about it. Alon 2%.
Oof.
You've got to learn that lesson, Alon.
X-Mins, right?
Players who play.
Players who play. But I mean, it's one of those things where I want to know more. I'm like, who didn't play? Like, who did I? Because I never really went for. I never had Turkey. I never had. I don't know who were the other guys who were like, too risky that you wouldn't have brought in. I can't really even remember.
Ekatike probably didn't do well for either of you on the minutes front.
No,
Right.
no.
Mo also, got dropped while I owned him.
Because also, I mean, yeah, we do need to think about this, and we'll get through the quiz quickly because Richie's getting agitated. But I guess we need to come back to these points because that's why it's difficult. But
yeah.
You know what? Obviously, like
Calafiori.
It's not just players who play, is it? It's like the difference, and this is something that to really think about for next season. The difference between players, because when I think about one of the transfers I hated the most that I made this season, which we'll get to because I know it's one of the questions, is the difference. And I've said it for so long, so why did I do it for this one guy? But it's the difference between players who play 70 minutes. It's not just players who play.
Right.
It's 90-minute players. That really racks up. So you might think, you've got a lot of players who play and they're sort of, you're not getting auto subs and stuff. But if they're getting subbed off early, regularly, it's such a big no-no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, Palmer is probably my main offender. I had Palmer probably more than most people, if I had to guess, on the season. And he got injured multiple times. He was randomly no-show multiple times. He was an absolute disaster for me. For my minutes, people.
Yeah. Cool.
Go on, Rich.
I'll just finish off. Okay. Couple more. The next one's relative variance, which means whether you basically made good variance calls against the Elite 1K. I'll tell you now that none of us did that well on this one.
I don't even know. People always post those graphs from like whatever website. I don't know. I don't know if it's
probably review,
Optimized, yeah.
Optimized, that's the one. I look at it. I'm like, I don't know what that means. They're like, I should have done really well. I was like, okay.
Well, I have problems with that graph, so I don't know if we want to talk about that at some point. But I do take issue with those. I mean,
yeah, I don't get it.
It's just so Okay, we'll come back to that. But I mean, you got to think Alon's probably the bottom, probably the least fortunate, just given where he ended up.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't really use the models. I would imagine that some of my picks that seemed the most crazy in hindsight, probably on the models, were like, Palmer's a good captain this week, and then I captain him and he doesn't play or gets 1 point. So I bet, according to that bullshit, I'm the least lucky.
You're quite correct. So Alon 0.6% against the Elite 1K. I mean, that's unbelievably unlucky though. Like whatever way you look at it,
do that if you tried. You literally can't, because that means I'm captaining. Good players with high points predictions regularly for 1-pointers. Like, that's what you have to do to get sub 1% on that.
Would be, I mean, we had our good friend Mikey who chips in with your question here. He got like 99.6 a couple of seasons back. Like everything he touched. Put it this way. No, actually, I can't say what I was about to say because that is beyond rude. But yeah, he was very fortunate. Anyway, Danny was top of us with 37.6 and I was 26.4. So the point being is none of us. The last sort of question before a very straightforward sort of tiebreaker one, which I don't think I'm going to need now anyway. Just basically differential EV, and what I mean by that is who had the most differential picks across the season. You might say
Come on.
This is
You know that's
fairly
me.
obvious.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, must be
Has to be
Alon.
me.
Alon,
So
and then
Alon
maybe
was
Rich the least, maybe.
yeah, that's correct. So 98.7
Look at
against
that.
the Elite 1K. So if you ever get it
Beautiful.
right, Alan, you're going to win. Basically, if you get it right, you're going to win.
On the
Whereas if I get it
post-mortem,
right,
I mean, my memory is not the best, but on the post-mortem, I was saying, like, I've had back-to-back worst seasons of my, 12 years of playing FPL or 13 years of playing FPL or something like that. 2 seasons or 3 seasons ago, I finished 20K, and I'm just like, how did that happen? I don't even remember what happened that season. I don't remember who I owned. I felt like I was just playing the same way that I always do. It must have just been like I just hit those random captaincies. I hit those transfers. I didn't sell the guys before they popped off or something. I genuinely can't even remember what happened that year.
just to round it off, by the way, Danny was 32.9%. I was 29.3%. So nothing to write home about. But by the way, I'm just going to share this out now because it's more fun for the chat than probably those questions. But my tiebreaker, if we were scoring it rigidly, which I don't think we were, which non-Bruno player appeared the most times on the Last Resort thumbnail?
Ooh.
Now, Danny, you made them, so you should know. But there were 2 players who got 4
good.
appearances. Bruno got 5.
Wow, 2 players got
Chat,
4.
this is your time. This is your time,
Okay.
chat. What other 2 players got 4 appearances on our thumbnails?
Can I guess one?
You get 1 guess each. Then.
All right. Well,
One guess each? Jesus.
I'm gonna guess just because of his kind of tumultuous season almost, and the fact that he played for more than one club and he was kind of went up and it's kind of up and down. I'm gonna guess Semenyo as one, maybe.
Oh, that's a really good guess. That's a really good guess. I mean, is Haaland too obvious? Like, it's like you don't even talk about him for the first half of the season because everyone captains him every week. Maybe, you know who could be on there? Is Thiago could be on there. O'Reilly could be on there. Foden
if
could
the
be on there.
chat gets it before Danny and Alon, I might have to.
Oh, so I haven't got any of them. So is it João Pedro or is it
Foden?
João Pedro is one.
Okay.
Yes.
Foden.
And then there is another who is kind of famous on this pod because some of our listeners were not big fans.
I was going to say Cunha, but it can't be Cunha.
Buemo?
The man is a god.
Yeah,
Palmer.
No,
it's
Cunha. Sorry,
wow,
that's our nickname is Palmer.
Cunha got 4 appearances, by the way.
Wow.
How did he get 4 appearances?
Someone at the horn for Cunha.
That's shocking.
I know. Jesus.
Anyway,
well, it was probably one me going into the week where I was going to captain him, and then one the week after where he got 1 point, and I was like, "Fuck you" or whatever.
Yeah. You have to look back and see what weeks it was. By the way, it's kind of funny. But, anyway, I'm going to wind. Seeing as it's a slight break in play, and Alon's probably already thinking to himself, "Oh my god, I've agreed to be on this again."
I'm loving it. By the way, that's all lies.
Good job on the quiz, Rich.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you. We'll replan it next time, and I'll try and be snappy. I'll give you the questions in advance, maybe, or something.
No. It's best this way.
But what I was going to say is the season is over, but we've got lots of kind of plans for next year. So if you haven't already done so, do subscribe and watch out for what we're going to do next year. I want to also just ask people in the kind of post stream comments, particularly, if you do have any thoughts about what you'd like to see from us next year, kind of what additional content you might like. And that sort of thing. We are going to have a bit of a rethink over the summer and come back stronger next year. And we're really, really privileged to have hit our first kind of 1K subscriber milestone, etc. So very exciting. Thank you very much. And you can be back for new and better things. If you want to see people like Alon, or more specifically, just Alon, then maybe you should go and watch his pod. But that would be. I'm just trying to think actually, if we had a relay team, what order would we go into? Alon would have to start.
I starter without a shadow of a doubt. I'm starting. So maybe you're the middle. You're the chunk.
I'm the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe Alon, quick start.
Because
Danny takes over after about Christmas.
I mean, honestly, I think we'd struggle as a team because usually I was always really good at the start, and then the last 2 seasons I've been terrible at the start.
My starts are just phenomenal. Always, I always kill at game week 1.
Yeah, so it'll have to be you then. And I was going to say,
1 until wild card. One of you take over when I wild card.
Rich, I don't know, because I always finish really badly though, so I can't go last. So I'm basically useless.
So we need to recruit one more person.
Yeah,
who's the person who won the lavender spray? Get them in here. They can take the last leg for us.
We need him. Yeah. I'm generally a pretty decent starter, actually. I think. I mean, that's what the stats suggested. So basically, Alon and I can sort of tag team it. Danny can do the middle, and then we'll get in a kind of not a rookie. What I mean, like a ringer for the ringer. End. Some kind of special guy. Yeah. Lots of questions were sent in. Sorry, Danny, go on.
No, I when I've got something in my head and I just want to get it out, I just and I know it's not on the screen and the questions, but just to briefly touch on, I just want to say with that season review thing, that optimized graph, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic tool and stuff. And it is quite interesting. And I look at it, I don't know, sometimes, once every few months, maybe purely out of interest, but it does bother me. So many people are outsourcing their kind of reflections. This pod is all about reflecting and trying to really learn from your mistakes. And I see so many people now, they outsource their reflections and the learnings to that graph. And they say, this is what I should have gotten. This is how unlucky I was. And honestly, for want of a better way of saying it, that's bullshit. It's not helpful. That graph, fine. Okay. It can tell you roughly that you're picking players with high EV. Yes, it will tell you can pick a player that has high EV and make it so that your team is what the model thinks is good before kickoff. Fine, great, of course, that's decent. That's going to do you pretty well generally, but that's all it's doing. So it strips away all the context. It strips away who were those players with that good EV. What were their predicted minutes going into the week? How robust was that player? Was it a move to Ekatike that the model will tell you was good from selling Thiago? When in my opinion, in terms of a move, it wasn't a good move. Was it moving to Turkey, which will also appear as a good move on the model? Yeah. Which I don't think is a good move. And I know I'm just picking 2 moves that maybe you guys or Rich did. I don't mean to do that. It's because I'm remembering the actual moves. I did other moves that weren't good. So, and even me then, Captain and Cunha, that would have probably looked good as an EV perspective. And it will look unlucky when I didn't get the points. But it wasn't really that good a move for various reasons, because it's, so it strips away all of that context, all of the kind of robustness, all of that, how and when you spent those transfers and those multiple transfers. And actually, all of the learnings are in those meta parts of the game. All of the learnings are in what type of player, how robust were they? What did the model get wrong? What did it get right? What does it look like when it says you didn't play well when you brought in, a Hinchelwood that the models thought was terrible? So I just wanted to say that and get off my chest. I do have a real problem. I see some people do reviews, genuine review. I've seen it in the past where people have done these sort of post-mortems and they've all finished 700,000th. And the optimized graph said that they played really well and got unlucky, and they've just gone, well, that's the conclusion, is I'm not going to do anything differently. I'm just going to do exactly the same. And that literally no reflections at all. And I'm just going, it's just not the way for me. So I just wanted to say that about that. And don't get me wrong, it's a good tool.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think your problem is actually with how people are using the good tool.
Of course.
Yeah, because you'll can use it to just judge your own process or to use it as just data to reflect in a different way. But it does seem like, I only ever see it on Twitter, and it's usually people just saying I got so unlucky this week. That's it. And the end of statement. And it's well, I don't know. You captained someone not nailed or whatever,
I mean, I've always said, in a way, I'll be glad if people, because it will continue for years. And I'm sure I said this a couple of years ago. I'll be glad if people continue to reflect in that way, because they're learning nothing. So they're not actually learning how to be better managers and make better decisions, and make better strategy decisions and make better kind of meta moves. They're not learning anything. So I'll be very happy if people, although makes it harder that everyone's using the models, I'll be very happy if every single one of those people is not able to reflect on the season because they're just using the optimized graph and they think that how much EV they had going into a week is indicative of how well they played, because it isn't. Yeah. Sorry, Rich. I just had to get that run out of the way so that I can.
You're quite. Actually, it's very helpful to hear it, because let's be honest with you, that has the most impact right now, doesn't it, for people to think about that? So I think that's absolutely right. Alon's started a process where I'm going to continue it in a few minutes' time. We're going to do sort of rolling toilet breaks because
I'll go
this
third.
is the
I'll go third.
post-mortem. This is the post-mortem pod, and therefore it makes the most sense. What I'll do, I'm going to kick off with, but there's some questions here that I'm going to kind of group together to just try and reduce them to more like 5 or 6 rather than across 2 screens, because there is another one, as opposed to doing multiple ones there. But this one came in really early, and it's perfectly placed for this pod, which is what's the one takeaway from this season you will need to remember before confirming that game week 1 team. I don't know whether it exactly answers this question, but I kind of took it more as, you know, if there's one particular takeaway we wanted to kind of bring to the table this evening. I'll kick off with one because I suspect people have got better ones than I have, kind of looking at what I've got written down. But I just wanted to choose something that was particular to kind of my situation. It's you know, looking over the review of last season and thinking about it a little bit more. You know, I want to try and think more in kind of longer term strategic blocks, and what I mean by that is to quite a few times in that last 2-month period when I was doing the worst, I kept deliberately making excuses not to pick the player that I really wanted to pick, because I thought, oh yeah, but they're not really a kind of 1 or 2 game week kind of player. They're not someone who's going to hit a spike in game week 33 or whatever it might be. So an obvious example like this, and Danny will know it, is that over that last kind of 6-week period, I kept wanting to pick Szoboszlai. I'm not saying he completely ripped it up, but I had seen enough with my own eyes to know that this is I know we did our sort of joke about a month ago about, you know, average size penis moves and that kind of thing. But Szoboszlai was, you know, I'd seen enough. This is exactly the kind of player that I like, that makes me feel comfortable, that you know, I know what's going on now, and I'd seen it. And I kept finding reasons to turn them away, you know, and it actually similar goes with Anderson. Actually, strangely enough, Danny, I know that we joke about him, like I didn't initially particularly want to pick him and that sort of thing, but when I wildcarded fairly late in the day, it should be said, in game week 32, he was another person. I genuinely want him back in my team. I don't know what I'm doing, trying to find like these Matomas and like going against the grain. So I listened to an old Meet the Manager video, one of those FFS scout ones from a long time ago, by accident fairly recently, and it had a conversation with Mark Southerns from about, I don't know, 8 years ago or something like this. And his first piece was just something like, you just got to lean into kind of what kind of a manager you are. And I know that's not perfect advice. We can extrapolate that lots of different ways. And like the kind of manager that I am, the kind of player that makes me comfortable, I was afforded an obvious opportunity this season, which is, in a way, DEFCON, people like Anderson, Szoboszlai with his multiple routes to point. For someone like me who doesn't see enough games, to be honest with you, you know, I do other things as well. It was a bit of a gift. It was an opportunity, really, that for most of the season I did fairly well. But as soon as I started to kind of pivot towards thinking, oh, yeah, but what about over this week or this 2-week period? It went wrong. I think that's really interesting. Is that seemed to be the kind of lesson there. And of course, this is also linked to the issue of minutes players. I mean, I obviously had much worse kind of minutes against the elite 1K, as we just done in the quiz, against, say, Danny, even though we're both quite sort of sturdy, sensible types on the whole. But basically, Cherky, Gyökeres, etc., you know, making those kind of bets when I didn't really ever feel comfortable about it, was probably a bit of a mistake. But I said earlier on, and I mean to stick to this because I think it's quite important to say it, I think most of the season I'm quite happy with the play, but on the sort of 3 or 4 occasions where I deliberately went against this kind of looking at the wider sample, you know, trying to hit someone for this 1 week of 15 rather than someone who I could rely on getting 6 every week, kind of went in again instinct. So basically it's playing against instinct that was my kind of issue, I think, anyway. But any thoughts on that? And then I'll hand over to Danny for his, to give Alon his a chance for his bladder to settle.
Well, yeah, so yeah, I mean, because I absolutely agree. I mean, one of the things, I mean, just for some context around those players, especially towards the end of the season, around not picking some of those players or, you know, talking yourself out of it. There were two things also at play, which I think we need to remember for next season. One of them is that whenever you get, as soon as you get the doubles and the sort of free hit weeks and the blank weeks and all that take over, probably too much to an extent of you kind of, you know, because it's, again, especially with models now and what's optimal, and it's very difficult to justify picking someone who you do believe in and has lots of avenues. I mean, Mark's a good example. You just mentioned him because I remember in double game week 32 or whatever it was, he wildcarded either that week or the week after when it was
Gibbs
double
White,
game week.
right?
Yeah, and he got Gibbs White, exactly. Now, I know he's a Forest fan and he always gets a Forest player in, so there'll definitely be a bit of Forest bias there. But a great example of someone who's clearly a fantastic pick, who, by the way, ludicrous. I think he was like the fifth or sixth highest scoring player in the game, and he's never over 10% owned. I mean, that's just insane, and that just shows how much it's all models, it's all, you know, template. I mean, that is ridiculous. The guy had like 12, 13 goals, fantastic talisman, 90 minutes.
Yep.
That's a really nice example of going, no, I want this guy who I believe is a really good player, regardless. He didn't have a double. He had one game that week, which happened to be Burnley at home. Anderson is another one. Other people picked Anderson. Again, fantastic. By the way, I never owned Anderson this season once. There's lots of things we need to talk about. I did want to at one point. I really wanted him when you got him reluctantly, Rich. I actually really wanted him. And then it passed me by. And that links to my other point, is that not only were the doubles and stuff dictating things for people, but of course, a lot of these players who were fantastic picks, who were more kind of solid picks over the long term, if you were behind or not where you wanted to be, like I and lots of us were, even with 10 weeks left, you can't help but think, I want to go for those players who can spike, who can score, who get goals, who can hat trick, can do whatever, or focus transfers on captaincy or whatever it is. And so it became harder and harder to get these players in who just bring in the points. But of course, that just wasn't right, because they did just bring in the points, but they also even got more points on top of that. I mean, Anderson scored like a couple of times at the end of the season, a couple of double assists, full bonuses, and that's when it starts to really hurt, because you didn't get this guy because you thought he might just get DEFCON and 5 points, but he started getting 9 points every game. So there were those two things at play, which I do want to remember next season, and I want to learn from the impact of DEFCON and about what I've said, where I've said it multiple times, where now in the game, you're not chasing, when you're behind, you're no longer chasing something that's static. Unfortunately, you are chasing people who have loads of DEFCON guys who are just going to get 3 points. So they're moving away from you inexorably. And that makes it even harder to chase, and it scrambles your decision-making process even more, because then you start to do what you're saying, Rich, and you start to look for reasons not to, and look for this spike and look for this player, when actually you've got Soboslai and Anderson, all these players with pure avenues to points. And just to touch on that as well for a second. So I do want to think about all that really hard next season, because I can keep finishing really badly. What I thought was absolutely fascinating, and this isn't necessarily, it's partly a lesson to learn, because I think we do need to think about football and the style of football and what's changed in football. And I know football changes every season. We'll come on to that. I know that, you know, there are metas and stuff like that. But we do need to think about the things that will stick and whatnot, and how it's, because I saw this fascinating interview with, this fascinating answer to a question in the interview with the guy who won FPL this year. And he went on, I don't know if either of you guys saw it, but he went on Solio like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And of course, it was his first ever season playing FPL. You know, what a surprise!
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Of course, of course it is. And then, obviously, I mean, it's always. By the way, they should always, every year they should publish at the end of the season where last season's top 10 finished, so that we can all feel better.
That would be great.
Usually, none of them are even in the top million. It's quite entertaining to see.
Yeah.
But anyway, because I was thinking to myself, just in relation to sort of this question, I wanted to say it, because I was trying to think about where I went wrong this season and why and how. And I started to think about players like Saka, and I started to think about players like Mbumo, and these picks that just weren't good picks for this season, and not owning Anderson all season. And I was like, how could I have done something differently? Because the natural optimist in me, and the player that's played this game for so long, is always looking for that player who can score, who can score big, whatever, that kind of thing. The natural optimist, it's very hard with my sort of really robust built-in heuristics in play to move away from something like that. And I was like, what could I have done? How could I have seen these players that were just like the medium-sized penises and stuff? Because it's funny, Rich, because it fully proved what we said as our kind of theory of the season. Because he said, because in response to that, like, how did you identify all these players? He said, well, what I wanted to do was, right at the start of the season, I looked at my team, and what I wanted to do is I just wanted to get just above the average every week. So I just wanted really solid average players. That's what I wanted. who I thought were going to get me a really solid average score every week. That's what his goal was. Game week 1, who hadn't been played. So, and that's why. So he went in with Bruno G, Declan Rice, never owned a Saka, something like that. It was Declan Rice all season because he wanted a really medium, solid penis. And that's what he said his goal was just to beat the average score every week. And of course, that's fascinating, isn't it? Because you've got, people think that doesn't win you the game. That's one thing. But obviously, it was the perfect season for him. He maybe doesn't realize this yet. It couldn't have been a more perfect season because any other season, really, you just aim for these average players like a Bruno G and a Rice. You're not going to win you're not even going to finish in the top 1 million.
Yeah.
But this was the perfect season for it. And so what I mean by that is he kind of, I don't know, kind of serendipitously fell into the meta of these players that just play 90 minutes. They do loads of stuff in midfield. They get loads of bonus. They make loads of passes. They get these odd assists. Do you know what I mean? So I want to take part of that away. Not that I'm going to aim to get, but it's really thinking about that consistent points that can come in from a low kind of scoring player and what it can do for you.
Yeah. I have so many responses because you just covered like so many topics, but on that one I brought it on our post-mortem as well because I was kind of comparing the guy who won the FML FPL Cup, who sort of finished like 250 or something like that. I don't remember. His average game week rank for 38 game weeks, and he finished 250th in the world, was like 2.5 million, I think. 2.5 million. I think if you offered that blindly to everyone who played FPL, I think no one takes it.
Well, I think the guy who won it, again, chat can correct me.
2 million.
Yeah, it was something like that. But he only had 2 game weeks in the season that were top 100,000.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, on the the Richie not getting Sobo, and I'm saying this while Richie just ran to the bathroom, but there's like this like famous Warren Buffett clip, I think, and they ask him about it's probably like 40 years ago or something. They asked about like what's your like biggest mistakes or worst investments or something like that you've ever made, which is very like relevant to FPL. And he's like, I've made tons of bad bets. Like everyone makes bad investments. You lose money, but it's okay because, we felt good going into it and whatever that happens. And then he says the interesting part of the answer, which is the ones I regret the most are the moves that I didn't do. The things that I had all the information and it's easy to say in hindsight, after someone scores points, to be like, oh, I knew they were going to be good. But usually you don't actually know. That's just a human tendency to like reason things after the case. But in the case of Rich and the Soboslai example, he did. I mean, how many weeks in a row is he like, oh, I kind of want Soboslai, and then he doesn't get him? Those are the ones that feel the absolute worst because you had all the information, all of your process, all of your boxes were ticked, all of that. The mistake of omission, it just feels so much worse because you're just like, it was all lined up for me. I did all the work. You did the hard part. And then you just didn't click the button one time. And that would have solved all the problems, right? But then the only other thing I was going to add was the end of season thing where like, this is like more of a game theory type of thing, I guess. But I actually don't think it's wrong to increase your sort of like risk profile and variance at the end of the season if you're trying to climb ranks, right? Like just because you went for like a Gyökeres cap and it was like, oh, I can't believe I capped this fucking idiot guy. You didn't do it because you thought he was the best captain. You did it because it is legitimately the only way you could have chunk rows. And so I don't think that that's wrong, right? Like we all could have just captained who everyone captained and maybe you would have got slight green arrows and whatever. But if you're genuinely not satisfied with your rank or where you would be on a path to finish, then I do think you kind of have to increase your risk. And that's like the LR team that you mentioned, right, Danny? I mean, like he went 99.9% variance. He just happened to hit it. So it's like remembered as like he did this amazing thing, but you have to put yourself in that position if you actually want to chunk rise. If you want to finish on double digits or whatever he finished in the world, you kind of have to a little bit of that at the, you know.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I mean, but again, and it's like fitting in how the game's changed as well, because you mentioned
Yeah.
like Warren Buffett, and you mentioned on your pod, which was obviously a great analogy about like these days it feels like you're playing against, you know, hedge funds or
Hedge
whatever.
funds. Yeah.
And so these guys, they have all of the information, and so everyone has all of that information. So the room to get things right or wrong, you know, even all those examples I've made this season where I've sort of the season I've had, genuinely, I think, I know it's obvious to say, but I made a few bets here and there that they kind of all went wrong, and a few basically all the little things, all those little bets, you know, still finished pretty good. But a few years ago, I'd have been top 10K. It would have been, I can easily
100%.
Yes, I know that's sort of obvious. But what I'm saying is I can easily make those bets of like a Gyökeres, Acuna, make these mistakes here and there. Whereas now it's just you've got to be prepared for the fact that it'll get away from you so much faster. But and I suppose just to touch on what you said, because again, that the Warren Buffett things, it's absolutely true. And I suppose again, what we have to think about in terms of this season, I don't know about next, is yes, you have all the information, but you're also evaluating like what type of, you know, investor you are and what type of return, what type of return you want, isn't it? Because that's how you're able to talk yourself out of an Anderson or a Szoboszlai, because part of knowing all the information is you kind of know that you're not going to be absolutely screwed the following week. You know what I mean? You're not going to be hit with a 20-pointer. It's not like selling Bumo 2 years ago when you know he's going to hit you with 2 goals, 2 assists in a 3-0 win, or selling Palmer, who is like never feels comfortable because you know he can hat-trick any game. So there is also that those decisions become harder, because with all the information we know that like Szoboszlai or Anderson's never and that was part of the reason why I never owned Anderson, because it was never quite that right time for me to. I didn't get enough transfers to get him in, but then I was also not scared enough to make it sure that it was one of the transfers that I did, which of course was just wrong because he just carried on and on and on every single week.
It's also just, I mean, so much of FPL is like reminding us how bad our brains are at sort of like interpreting information, right? Like if I, again, like the 2.5 million game week rank thing for someone who finishes top 50 or whatever, or top 250, but there's also the other thing of like, it never feels appealing. It's never like a bright, blinky, shiny number in a slot machine to say, what if I offer you 5 points a game? Right? Like that in the course of a season never feels like, oh, I'll do that in a heartbeat. I'll rip your hand off for that deal. But then you think 5 times 38, that's 190. And that's sort of what you're offered with Declan Rice. That's sort of what you're offered with Elliot Anderson. It's like, wait. You're telling me if I just got these guys in game week 1, they're on that track for the whole season without even like, you know, having to get an assist or a goal? It's like, I would have taken that immediately, but we kind of like lose sight of it because it doesn't feel, oh, this is going to get me over the edge. This is going to get me top 10K, whatever.
That's kind of what I was saying earlier with the sort of comprehension of numbers, because if you said, oh, okay, this player is, I mean, to extrapolate it but in a slightly smaller way, oh, okay, that player is going to score. You know, when someone gets a clean sheet, for example, and they get 6 points, you're like, okay, well, it's bad, but you know that you didn't have it, but at least it's only 6 points. There's no bonus or whatever it is. But when you start to factor up those numbers, and you're like, this player is going to score 36 points over the next 6 game weeks, you're like, oh, okay, that's really pretty much worth having. I've really got to go for that. And then you factor it up from there. You know, thinking in those terms. Obviously, it's easy.
6 times 38 is 228 points. And that's the third, it's not a real player, but that's the third best player in FPL this season, just behind Bruno and Haaland. Right? And so it never feels like, holy shit, I nailed a Crystal Palace clean. I'm fucking flying this week. But actually, you are. Like, that's an amazing return. Just getting 6 from a 4-5 center back is amazing.
I do want to say one thing. I think Danny's probably touched on it within his answer there. Obviously, I only heard part of it, but it's one of the difficulties with any post-mortem pod, right? And you know, Danny's example of the manager that went for Bruno G and Declan Rice or whoever it was right from the start and picked a perfect season to aim for a kind of average, like above average team and that sort of thing, is of course, and it's an obvious point, but one has to say it, like no 2 seasons ever look exactly the same. No. And of course, that strategy could have easily been an absolute nightmare. You know, if you'd hit a high scoring season where Salah was on one of his 300 pointers and Haaland was hitting 270, 280, and, you know, and 2 or 3 other premiums had been working out and that sort of thing. And let's say that happens potentially next season. I don't think it is likely to happen next season, but and you factor that in with, let's say, DEFCON players getting a price hike, you can't do a season like this one again. You can take some of the messages away from this, but that is, which is why my kind of frustration earlier about, like we knew that this was going to happen to some extent ahead of the season, and like it's just to what extent you picked up on the messages and that sort of thing. So it's
oh, go ahead, Danny.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, this is like, I'm trying to keep all this in my head now as well, and it's
I know
there's so much to say. But whilst I always say the same, things change massively every season. So football changes. Now, what I will say though, to counter to that is, and I do want to think about this more as a possibility in terms of the meta, is that what isn't changing is that football is getting and will always get more predictable as a game. Because football will always get more and more advanced. It'll get more and more advanced with numbers and XG and how you create chances and possession and all that sort of stuff. And we know that it's just way more predictable. 15 years ago, you'd see loads of rifles from 40 yards a season going in the top corner and people just all sorts of low XG stuff and random chance. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So first of all, football's getting more predictable, but also it's not just getting more predictable, it's getting more professional. There's a huge amount of fitness now. You look at the Premier League now. Now I know it's just it's kind of a meta season, but it's also this kind of defensive set piece season. But it's also kind of this part of a result of this unbelievable focus on fitness. It's just a fitness league, isn't it? A physical fitness set piece. And so the pressing is so intense. The minutes are so intense. It's all about being 100% on your game. So of course that has implications as well when you think about it in terms of these medium guys that we're saying. In terms of minutes and reliability and that kind of thing is even more important. So you think about season now and last season, I'm thinking about someone like Cunha and Bumo. Not only are they worse players because they don't have the avenues and they don't have the DEFCON, but also because of the intensity of the Premier League now and this and the size of everyone's squads getting bigger. Of course, you're more likely to get early subs. The size of the squads, the intensity, the minutes, etc., etc. Yeah. So where can you find those guys that are like a Rice or a Bruno G or someone else in equivalent club who maybe is more central to the team or is going to get less rested even less, or is really going to get 90 minutes, and it becomes even more important, you know what I mean? And within that intensity and that sort of play in those sort of players in midfield, of course, probably just means you do more stuff. So you're going to get more DEFCON, you're going to probably get more bonus. So I wonder how much of that will transfer over to next season. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say that too. It's like, if we had that guy on the pod right now, the guy who won FPL with all these like sort of steady eddies, the thing that I would say is I'd rather be there than like on the other side of it where you went for all these risky picks that just didn't pan out, right? I'd rather have the base of steady eddies and then say, oh, Salah looks like he's going to score 350 points this year. I'll get him.
Exactly.
I'll just get him. And then you still have all your guys and you have all your transfers. Right. So I think like the oversimplified strategy of like, I'm just trying to get nailed guys who get decent points is a good one. Like it's not, don't throw it all away just because in some seasons it may have not worked out this well.
Exactly. And it's more than we ever thought in terms of, we knew this might happen last season, but we didn't kind of want to believe it. But, I think of an example because it's more than we ever thought. I only realized how much I owned him when I saw that graphic that you put on the start, Rich, when my Boomer was on my list. I'm like, Boomer, what the hell is he doing there?
Right.
Why did I have this guy in my team for so long? But you think about someone like that, right?
Yeah.
If he got the goal, Boomer scored in my team. You know what I mean? You're looking at 8 points.
Yeah.
For these guys, typically, they're coming off, even if, they come off early 70, 80 minutes. To actually score a goal, they're still only getting like 8 points, maybe 9 for these guys because there's no other avenues, there's no bonus. They're not even getting 90 minutes, and I know it's obvious, but Anderson's getting 5 without any returns. But often you got 7 or 8 with full bonus. And I know Anderson's just one example, but again, so this answer to answer the question, one of the takeaways, I'm going to say some other ones in a minute after someone else answers, but the top question is bonus as well. Within that is bonus as well as like all of these. When I see avenues, these guys like Bumo and stuff, for example, or whoever else you want to pick, even a Semenyo, they're getting nothing on bonus.
Yeah,
they really have to go big. They really have to have a really, really big season, and there's only a few of them that happens to score loads of goals, and even then, they're arguably not even worth it.
Yeah, in a weird way, I mean, everyone, including us on our postmortem, focused on Elliot Anderson because he finished 5th highest midfielder and he was so cheap. But he's sort of an outlier. Like, he was the best def conner in the entire game, and he was so cheap. You know, like all of these things. I almost think Soboslai and you're sort of you talking about him every week, Rich, and then not getting Soboslai is almost a better example. Like the fact that he finished like top 8 midfielder when he played half the season at right back is ridiculous. I mean, like, he's playing reverse out of position, not on penalties, and he still finishes on 160 just because he's on the fucking pitch and he takes free kicks and he takes some corners, and like that's enough. You know, he hit DEFCON occasionally. He got good bonus because he's a good player and he's very active and he plays 90 every game. And he got, 6 goals, 7 assists. Fine. Totally fine. Not stand out. And he probably got almost 0 of those when he was playing at right back. And he still was just like a good, steady hold all season. It's like, yeah.
Actually, the fact that he was playing out of position a lot of the time, right back, as you used the example there, was another reason why, no one ever brought him in. Really, a lot of players didn't bring him in and that sort of thing. But actually, like, it came into our conversations very early, most likely via Danny, who's just like, this guy's having an absolutely worldy of a season. He's easily the best player, easily the best player on the pitch. And at that point, it's just, it's similar with Morgan Gibbs White. Maybe at that point, kind of ignoring FPL returns and that sort of thing. You're just thinking, well, this is a guy who's central to everything. The entire team is built around this person.
100%.
Just lock them in and forget about it. You don't need to overthink it. So there's a little bit of that in our heads, I think, as well. Just remind me where we're at with this first question, by the way. Because
the first question is a big one.
I wasn't even here for the start of the question. We're just talking.
The first question is one of the biggest questions, so it doesn't matter. Like the other ones will go through faster. So I just think there are a lot of things for the
takeaway.
For the first,
I've done mine. I think.
One thing I want to say for the first one, which I think is definitely worth saying for me. Well, there's a couple of things. So I'll start with one because one of them might be a bit contradictory and one I'm already scared. So there's one thing I'm scared of already. Okay. I want to talk to you both about, and I want you to both help me feel better. And then the other one is more kind of concrete and maybe not as interesting, but I think it's really significant and something that I did well this season, that a lot of people didn't do, and that is early wildcard is just an option, very much a play. It's very, very much an option, and it's absolutely fine. And obviously, especially I think with the 5 transfers rolling over, is just way more of an option. And this season, I got off to a horrific start the first 3 weeks, which is not like me, and I get myself uncomfortable. And I wildcarded in game week 4, and I have to say this because it's really important to reflect on it. Everyone, and I felt it was complete bullshit, to be honest, at the time. Everyone in the community, all the pods and stuff in the community said, you can't wildcard in game week 4, it's too early. And it was like this, and it will still happen again next year. There was this belief that you need to wait longer, you need to see more, and of course, especially with the 5 transfers now, in terms of how much flexibility that gives you to completely change your team over time anyway and move and so going for that wild card early against what everyone said, I was quite happy. I was really quite happy with. I mean, obviously, I picked a good team. I remember that, and that's where I got myself back into a good position. I mean, I was like 4 or 5 million. So I was nowhere, and then I just immediately shot back up the ranks with the game week 4 wildcard. And I just want to reflect on that, just to say, because you always hear it every year. People think there's some kind of rule that you can't wildcard really early, and it's not a play. And people, people always do. Like as soon as the fixtures get announced in 3 weeks, someone's going to race to say this is the big fixture swing after game week 14, so I'm going to wildcard in game week 14, or this is the other fixture swing in game week 8. People get way too locked in on fixture swings about teams that we don't even know about yet, because everything changes next season. We don't know anything. We don't know what we don't know. We're going to get shitloads wrong. And actually, a really good play can often just be seen a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, ideally building up transfers with that, which is what I wanted to do this time, which I couldn't do last time. I wildcarded with no transfers because I was so in the shit. And it still worked out really well. So I just want to say, that sort of stuff, like disregard it. Like, just be open.
I mean, the only people that should probably pay attention to that is if you're just copying your team. You're just copying someone else's team. Because then you literally are in the exact same identical situation as they are. And they maybe have thought about it or planned it better than you have. But everyone else, all of us and most people I know, are in some sort of a unique situation with slightly different players or money in the bank or different problems. And then it's like, why would I listen to someone who says you can't wildcard before game week 8 when, I have these two guys and they have those two guys, whatever it is. So.
And it's just part of, it's part of making good decisions, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny it. It's really hard when everybody says something's wrong.
Yeah,
and
it
that's a million people, and the group think, it was like you made that thing about the masses, knowledge of the masses. I can't remember.
Wisdom
the
of
thing.
the crowd.
Yeah, the wisdom of the crowd. Sorry. It's there for a reason to an extent, but it's a real, don't go against it on purpose. It has to be, you have to believe it. So you have to, that's what trying to train your decision making is, being really objective, getting rid of biases. One of those biases is being influenced by other people, being scared, not being part of the group, not making decisions just because you want to be different. So it's about finding that really objective path where I go, no, I believe in these certain picks and this certain structure, and I'm happy to make that, make that decision to make an early wildcard. It's very hard to do, but it's how you get better at the game, I think. But yeah, Rich, I suppose just I don't know if you want to say anything. The only thing I was going to say about the first one, just quickly, was what I would like to do, and which I've never really normally done, is have a bit more of a bench. And I would like to have a bit more of a spread of lots of good picks and give myself more flexibility to get more transfers and to roll even more and to make myself stronger. Because I've typically always been quite an aggressive player, and I've got, typically have a lot of the money in the 11, but combined with that money in the 11, which is this is the problem now. This is the caveat. This is the but. And this is what I'm scared. And I know that things are going to change when we get to game week 1 is, yes, I have all the money in the 11, but that also does give you an awful lot of flexibility in the 11, because it's usually a function of me having those key price points and being at the top of each price point and being able to move to other guys. So that it's not easy to just start with a bench. I think having a bench for me is probably going to be after the wild card or a bit later on, realistically. Now, I'd like to do that game week 1, of course. And if the opportunity presents itself, but for me it very rarely does, because again, it's about getting those price points and those picks you really want to. I've started season with 4.0 defenders before. I've really maxed it out like many times, and I'm just thinking, so in line with that, and I don't know what you guys think, but I suddenly thought yesterday, after I thought to myself, I'd like to do that this season, do something different, be really solid, have a bit of a bench. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, you've got to have Bruno. I know we're just talking ahead to next season part of it here, but it's about what we're taking. You've got to have Bruno 100%. As it stands, you've got to have Haaland 100%, because he always starts like a beast. Amongst other things, amongst Gabriel possibly being 8 million, the likes of God knows who, Anderson's probably 7.5. One of the players I've already, and I know it's partly answering another question, Rich, but one of the players I'm already thinking after a summer off that I really, if he's got good fixtures, I'm going to be all over Cole Palmer.
Your boy.
You know what I mean? So anyway, it's something that I want to do next season. But immediately, if you want to have Haaland, Bruno, and Palmer, you're not going to have a bench.
But the flexibility point's a good one, though. But you got to remember that flexibility means different things at different times. Flexibility early in the season means you have your money in the 11 because half of your team is probably wrong, and you need to be able to make transfers.
Exactly.
You need to be able to get guys.
Exactly.
Flexibility in December means I don't have to sell my guy who might not start, or I don't have to take a hit because one of my guys is suspended or hurt, because I have a bench. Those are totally different things that both are flexibility, right?
Exactly. You're exactly right. And it is about knowing that you'll already get it all wrong. And on that point about that flexibility, you think about that kind of what that actually looks like practically, even just those 3 players. If we make certain assumptions, if we make the assumption that with no injuries aside, you're definitely not going to sell Bruno or Haaland. Let's just say hypothetically, you're definitely not going to sell Bruno or Haaland in the first 6 to 8 weeks, because you're not, unless they get injured. Let's just assume, sort of thing. So that means that those 2 players on that basis offer you no flexibility, really. I know a little bit, because one of them might get injured. But they don't offer you any flexibility by way of transfers. So someone like Palmer, that piece on the chessboard, you introduce that queen that's a £10 million player that you are not sure about at all, that you can easily be happy about transferring. Suddenly, he offers you immense. So he takes away your bench entirely, but he's the one who offers you immense flexibility.
Right.
Because the other guys who are priced above him, you're not selling anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that now, and then, when was the last time Manchester United were in the Champions League, and maybe 90-minute every single game, Bruno Fernandes, his role changes, right? And then it's like, oh, Bruno's not worth 11.5, or Enzo Maresca Holland team is not scoring 4 goals every game at the beginning of the season, and you say, I'm going to jump on this new guy or whatever, the Arsenal bias striker or something like, so, I mean, that's sort of one thing I've nailed in the last maybe 4 or 5 seasons is I think almost unanimously, maybe not this season, I've had the most expensive forward, the most expensive midfielder, and the most expensive defender in my game week 1 team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I think you're insane if you don't have Holland, Mo, and Trent. It's usually like those 3 or whoever, insert whoever are the most expensive players next season. It's that you can get anyone from any of them. You see what's happening. You see this player's on fire. This team looks really good. Boom, boom, boom. It's 1 transfer. It's not 2. So in a sense, I'm like doubling my resources because most people have to go Saka and 8.5 midfielder to get to Mo. I have Mo, and if Saka starts on fire, that's one free, right? So it's simple when you think about it like that, I think.
It didn't help this season, by the way. Before I ask you what you think about those points on, is unfortunately, again, I kind of played like that for too long. So Saka, for example, I held on not just because I thought he might be good, but because I felt like he offered me flexibility. But of course, that was a killer to the season because this wasn't the season to have any flexibility. It was a season to have loads of 6 to 7 million midfielders like Bruno Guimaraes and Anderson. But anyway,
true.
Yeah, Rich, what do you reckon?
No, all I was going to say, I mean, just on your pricing point, as something that, actually, to be honest with you, has only just kind of come to me in this conversation is just that we had a huge amount of fortune this year with 4 millions. Huge amount. I mean, actually, relative to other seasons, I don't think we've kind of factored in. I mean, someone who I didn't own nearly enough, and I've already half forgotten the names of the various Sunderland defenders. The other guy, not the one I went for. I went for Omar Alderete at all of the wrong times, and he was an absolute nightmare and scored 1 point every week. But remind me, the right back, Mukiele. I mean, he. But there were a lot of 4 millions in 2 defensively adept teams on the whole. Sunderland at home.
Don't forget Hill. Also.
And Leeds, and Hill. And again, we have to remind ourselves that when you get back here in late July or whenever it is, you might not have this situation again. And the promoted teams, from everything that I gather from everyone I'm speaking to, they suck. They suck really badly. I know that we would have said that about Sunderland, so it could easily be that way. So just a bit of a warning shot there. You're not dealing with, okay, I'm going to say it, but West Ham weren't that bad. They're not that bad. They're going down with players like Mavropanos,
39 points, right?
Whatever it is, and Tottenham would have gone down with some outrageous players. So that might not happen again. So it is a kind of a little bit of a concern. Are we wrapped up with number 1 there? Sorry.
We are.
Put my head in order.
Yeah, as you move us on to the next question, which I just want to say, by the way, because I've just come to another realization. What a weird season. Not only did I never own Anderson once this season, I never owned one single Sunderland player.
Wow. Really? That's shocking because I had Alderete when he was good, and then I had Ballard when he was good. I kind of nailed it with at least one of them in my team.
I mean, at
all times.
And you just knew, like Mukiele was the one for me where it was like this. It's just this guy's season. It's his season. Yeah. And for some reason, I just never was able to move there. Again, 100%. Stranded with just not enough transfers. And it's just like, can't believe I didn't own Mukiele in the Mukiele season.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. I have to say, one of my low points of last season was I think I was on a train back from somewhere on that mid-August or what have you, and I heard some kid, where you trying to avoid, what I'm like, Danny, I like to try and avoid knowing the score. If I can't watch the game, if I can't watch it, I don't like the kind of ticker tape of like scores coming in and bits and pieces. I'm not like that. My brain doesn't like that. I'm unhappy and restless with that. Some kid on the train, little wanker, was talking about, he was like, oh God, I can't believe Sunderland won 3-0, and it could have absolutely ruined this lovely day out. And I was like, oh my God. And then you watch it back, and of course, never listen to anything I say. I started the season with Nicholas Füllkrug. Can you imagine that? Nicholas Füllkrug, who still plays for West Ham, who had a loan spell at AC Milan and scored like 1 goal.
Holy shit.
Crazy, isn't it? 27 million pounds. Anyway. Yeah, so speaking of 27 million pounds worst transfer, which transfers haunt you from last season? So I'm going to give you room to pick out one example and a lesson. I suppose I should, seeing as I've got the floor, I could probably kick off with this one. I mean, I do think there's probably two that stand out in my head, but I owned Cherky twice. And I'm pretty sure over 7 or 8 games I got 1 start. And this is that all of that minutes, that's Cherky, basically. All of that minutes depreciation that I got on the rest of the 1K, like I say, when I'm still in there and all that, but like it's still, it's that move. It's such a classic example of a unnecessary profligate transfer situation in both instances. I remember, I think the first time I had 3 transfers, the second time I had 4. It's the kind of thing where you don't need to do it, as you say. You can easily avoid it. It's just, and also just admitting that this is someone who, he could absolutely bang. He's a terrific player, all of that. But he's not my guy. He's totally not me. Like I am Mr. Measure it up. It's reasonable. It's going to do a hard day's work, but I am not Cherky. And
it's just a reminder of how bad that thinking is to say it could happen. Like, I could win the fucking lottery. I don't play it because it's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's burning money, right? It's the same as like, but of course, Cherky could score 13 points every game for the rest of the season. But we get blinded.
Specifically, I think it was also the occasions in which they were bought in, because the second one, was totally unnecessary. The first time, also I could have again. Actually, it could have been. I remember this now. That could have easily been Szoboszlai again. Can you imagine again looking back over the season, basically not picking Szoboszlai, so picking Szoboszlai and over Cherky would have been like would have sorted me right out. I would have probably finished 30, 40k if I'd just made that decision. It's incredible, really. And the other one, I'm just going to quickly touch on it. I won't elaborate in case it's someone else's answer, but also another one where you look at it and all of the evidence was there to just give that another week and have a think about it. Was obviously Thiago to Ekitike, and I think I immediately wanted to reverse that move. It didn't actually end up that terrible, but it was more what it kind of represented, wasn't it?
And it was -1 transfer, which is also important.
But anyway, actually, weirdly enough, Ekitike is in my most played this season. I'm like, why? Why are you there? Unbelievable.
I never owned him
for you.
I mean, he's fucking a great player, but I mean, he was a disaster for most people in FPL.
But also, and this is another theme, isn't it? He's feast or famine. Like the guy just does not tick along. He does not tick along. He was either 13 points,
no avenues, no 90s. Yeah.
And if you're going for that guy, I know this is hard to say because the minutes went up and down over the season. But if you want to go for that guy, go for Ollie, right? If you want to go for that guy, at least you got someone with proven Premier League sort of credibility and that sort of thing. Anyway, Alon, seeing as you had the floor there.
Oh, sorry, I'm always interrupting.
No. But your haunting transfer.
While you were talking, I just wanted to also bring up: do not make the mistake of in June saying no, Cherky is now banned from my team next season.
No.
Right, it's a different manager. They didn't make Europe. Right, like Cherky could start 36 games next season, and I would be not even a little bit surprised. He's obviously their best number 10. He's incredible every time he's on the pitch. They're playing once a week, not twice a week. Oh no, I'm fucking confusing my teams. But my point was actually just Maresca didn't rotate when he had Chelsea. Obviously, Man City made Europe. I'll take that back. But no, but he could still start. You know what I mean? Like he could treat him like how he treated Palmer. and Palmer probably started 35 plus games that first season of Maresca. So just don't throw him away, but irrelevant to my team. I kind of spoiled it at the beginning because I think all of my best transfers were immediately flanked by my worst transfers, right? So I got Thiago for Jimenez. I started with Raul Jimenez in game week 1, and I moved to Thiago in game week 3. Great move. Before anyone had him, incredible move, etc., etc., etc. And then I sold him on my wildcard 2 game weeks later. I got Foden in game week 6. I sold him in game week 9. Right before 4 consecutive double-digit hauls is right when I sold him. Elliot Anderson, I got him in, I can't remember exactly. It was game week 11 or 12. But I sold KDH, who got me 1 point per game week for 8 straight game weeks, I think. 6 game weeks, 8 points. That was the run that I had KDH. And if you just look at like the season, like points per start, he's like top 20 player in the league. And I think he was like 5 points per start on the season. And when I had him, he was 1 point per game.
Such a good pick.
Such a good pick. I nailed it. Couldn't have been worse, really. I mean, 6 game weeks for 8 points, and he started all the games. Could not be a worse pick in the game for that run, or could not have less points. And I sold him, and then he went bananas. That's when he had his like 3 double-digit hauls in 6 game weeks or something like that. Probably right before you got him, Danny, and then he got hurt. Yeah, all of mine are just like, I got this guy early, which arguably is bad because they didn't really score points, but as I said on our post-mortem, I kind of got him because of the minutes or because of the role. That's one thing. And then I sold them because they got blanks. So there's obviously like a misalignment there. That was always my problem all season. I buy for one reason, I sell for another reason, and then I get punished, which is just a good reminder for me, I guess, for next season is to I need to write it down of like, why am I buying Foden? I'm buying him because he's in their best 11 and Pep is playing him 90 every single week. That's it. I'm not buying him because he's scoring points. I'm not buying him because of, any other reason. And then I end up selling him because he's blanked 5 games in a row and it feels stupid. Like I feel stupid for having him in my team, even though the thing I got, the reason I got him for was exactly right. And then I sold him, so that was all my worst moves. They're all the same.
Tough, real tough.
Tough.
I mean, you don't want to take, because one thing someone might say to that is like, if only those players were blanking with the players who just got points for doing nothing, and then you'd feel a lot better. But I don't think it's fair to say that. Yeah. It's not about being fair. It's just that I don't think we should say that because we should still be trying to buy players.
Yeah.
Who score goals, and rotating those transfers, and you just got as unlucky as you could possibly be with the timing of those.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Foden is really the poster boy. Like if you look at my team and when I got him, when I sold him, and then when I got him back, it was just sandwiched with I think 4 or 5 double-digit hauls in a row. But I got him in game week 6. He went 1, 3, 3, 1. I sold him. Then he went 4, 3, 2. So 3 blanks, then 15, 17, 12, 11.
Yeah, well, let me. That's a good segue.
And then I bought him back, and he blanked 6 more in a row.
It's a good segue, that, because I was just about to say, like, I've got
That's
so
your
many.
Best.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, I don't know. There's a difference here between outcome, isn't there, and process. And I'm trying, and I want to think about like process-wise, because process-wise, the answer is probably very different. I mean, so Foden, outcome-wise, was the best transfer of my season. And that was when things were going really well. And obviously I got him in just as you sold him. I got him in for first game 15, then 17, then 12, then 11. So I got him for all that. That's when I brought him in, and hardly anyone owned him then. You must have hated it. One thing I will say, because that's separate, because I still think it was a good transfer, but again, that's with a kind of almost like a cap these days, because how good is someone who doesn't have the avenues and they're just a Man City player who can score goals? I mean, he is a guy who got player of the season and scored like 20 odd goals a couple of years ago, whatever. Like he can go massive, so he's always scary.
Yeah.
But how good is a transfer who's a player who hasn't got any avenues? How good is that ever going to be? Now, that's the scary thought. One thing I was very happy about when I did that transfer again, in terms of more of the process, was, again, it was against what everyone was saying which should be done, and it was very suboptimal. Because I remember the week, like Arsenal were playing something like Burnley at home, something like that, or Burnley away, or something like that, and midweek, and it was all about getting Arsenal defenders that week. I didn't have Timber, who looked awesome. And I knew that was a very good and logical move, but so it was very hard for me to pull away and go Foden, because I remember at the time, Arsenal had actually had hardly any break. I think they were on Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and the Wednesday game was that Burnley. And I thought, well, I'm not going to logically bring someone in when they've got no rest at all. Like this is not ideal. Whereas Foden had an extra day either side.
Yeah,
and that was the Fulham game that they won like 5-1, and it was after the free hit week. And so I was actually really happy with myself that week, because I went against all of the crowd and all of the models and all of that stuff to actually go, no, I want to go for the guy who I think's really good, but also has actually had some rest. And that just went really well. But anyway, people don't really want to hear about this stat, probably because it's just boring. But what I will say is, outcome-wise, that was probably the best. The worst couple of actual transfers made, again, this is just like similar to you, Alon, in terms of timing. I finally got to back to a reasonable place of strength, and this is why it really hurt. I finally, after those sort of 5 transfers at Christmas stuff, got to a position where I was like, the team looked good and I had a good few transfers. And I was like, right, I can be a bit aggressive here. Nobody owns any Newcastle players. Nobody owned any. I remember it very clearly. And
before they lost every game.
This is the fixture run that I brought. So I brought in double Newcastle.
When is this?
So this is game week 19. Burnley, Palace, Leeds, Wolves, Villa were the next 5.
Unbelievable. What a run.
Unbelievable run. And yeah, I got Anthony Gordon in as one of them.
Oh.
Which I kind of can't believe. I always try and get my head around it. But I mean, there's 2 things happening here. One, I still could never make sense of the Bruno G phenomenon until the end of the season, when I thought he looked absolutely sensational as a pick.
Oh, he's an incredible player.
When he was playing in the 10, he's an amazing player, but when he was playing in the 10, and he was definitely on penalties because the other guys weren't, I was going, this guy's an incredible pick.
Yeah.
But earlier in the season, when he wasn't necessarily in the 10 and he wasn't on penalties, I couldn't get to that point. Whereas Gordon, so I mean, the shit thing about that pick is he was coming off for like 70 minutes, but we were fairly certain, and we were fairly certain he was on penalties. And he was basically an attacker, and nobody owned him. I still don't like the pick, but obviously it couldn't have gone any worse. I mean, the first game he got a goal disallowed for being offside, and it was like one of those ones that his arse was offside. You couldn't even see that it was offside.
Yeah.
You know, and then like
there
was like 2 games then when he got subbed off in like the 70th minute, and then they got a penalty like a minute later, and you're just like, for God's sake, it couldn't have gone any worse.
That sent me over the edge. You know, certain things just tilt you beyond belief, and you just can't even get around them. I remember Bruno Guimaraes was still pretty highly owned at that point, and Gordon and Woltemata got subbed on like 75th or 80th, the number 1 and number 2 pen takers at the club. And then Bruno gets a pen like 5 minutes later. And it's like, he's fucking scamming another 11-pointer. Like, what is this? Yeah.
So again, like another stage of the season where I made a bet and I restructured. I didn't need to go aggressive and get 2 guys in that no one owned, that were low ownership with fantastic fixtures, where it's like, to me, it's like, that's a move where you're going to regret if you don't do it. It's like, it's all making sense. You've got loads of transfers, really amazing fixtures. Nobody owns them. I can go really aggressive. It just, as everything I did this season, it just didn't work out. It couldn't have gone any worse. I mean, I look at it, and Hall did all right, which, amazingly enough, you know, he got like 4-6, 4-9. So he was a great, he looked like a fantastic pick. But again, unfortunately, like, you had someone like Hall, and he's just doing what all the good DEFCON defenders were doing anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, anyway, more interesting, just to move on, because no one wants to hear that sort of stuff, is I try and think about, I think just looking now for the first time, some transfers that I really liked is I did get Soboslai. Sorry, Rich. I got Soboslai in like game week 28.
Yeah, I remember that.
you know, because I just thought it was such a great pick, so many avenues. And of course, it was fantastic owning him. It was fantastic owning him because even when he blanked, he got 4 points. And that was almost my only experience of that this season. You know, not only Anderson and stuff like that, and actually got to feel how fantastic that was. The players just got points, and even if they didn't do anything. So he was, and he was just, when he did return, he'd get 11 or 12 because of the bonus.
Bonus.
It's just such a monster of a pick.
I wanted to ask, though, who did you sell for Gordon? Is that what made it bad, or was it just the Gordon part of it that made it bad?
Who did I sell Gordon for?
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I'm just trying to look now to remind myself. I think
because I can't find your team. I don't know where it is.
So it was God, I hope it wasn't. Oh, I think it was no. I think it was Boomo. That's weird. I sold him for
weird.
Boomo.
Oh, well, you had him
really
so
bad.
much. Yeah,
that's crap. So that's rubbish as well. So I sold him for Boomo. I was going to say, because the other player that appears there at the same time, similar time, was Njai, who was like all season was like theoretically a good player.
Yeah.
He was theoretically a good player, and he was great on the models. He had penalties. He could do DEFCON sometimes, but he just wasn't a good pick.
What's the lesson that you can actually apply from the Gordon move, right? Because I'm sitting here, I'm looking at his match log. He started all those games. He started every single game that you would have wanted him to start, every single one, and he had penalties.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, penalties.
Was it bad?
Well, this is what I mean. It's a fine line because it's pretty close, but basically, he had starts and he had penalties, and so penalties are very good and starts are good. But is that enough anymore?
Maybe
when
not.
you don't have 90s and you don't have DEFCON or set pieces.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
And
well, I mean, Alan, you and Walsh on your post-mortem did pick out this point, didn't you? That the impact of penalties, wasn't as great as we would usually expect, and people were so, even those last couple of weeks, as Danny said, I mean, everyone on analytics discords was piling into Njai, even though there was no basis in form,
and the decrease in the bonus points for penalties too, right? So that lowered them a lot, right? It's not just forwards aren't just getting 1 goal on a penalty and getting a 9-pointer anymore, right? So that adds up too, right?
That was a good example, Rich, because at that point, obviously, I got KDH in then when I could have got either in. Because it was just like, the penalties aren't enough. Like where I'm seeing what I see in KDH is he's just a monster of an FPL pick, and he's just definitely a better pick than Njai. And
definitely,
that's one of those examples where I just think, don't care that the model's all having 1 EV more every single game, and he's on penalties. He's just not as good. He's just not. He's not crafted as an FPL pick in the way that KDH is. But just very quickly, I mean, I suppose. Something else I was going to say, but I think a lot of my best moves were moves that I didn't make. So I'm looking now. Obviously, I didn't do the Ekatike to Thiago move, and I was terrified that whole time. By the way, it was horrible not owning Ekatike. When 80% of the world owns it, every single manager in the world owns it.
I didn't even know that happened.
Scary man, scary player. But you've got it, you just sort of think you've got a guy who's on pens who gets 90 minutes. How wrong can you go with Thiago? And that was very difficult, but obviously that worked out as well as it could have possibly worked out. I didn't do the Semenyo to Turkey move. We don't need to go back there. And I was just looking again, and another one that I did like was I owned Van Dijk for ages, and I genuinely just always looked at him and thought, he's just a good pick, man. Like everyone was slating him. Everyone was going, he's just terrible. What are you doing on him, Van Dijk? I was thinking, it's coming, he's got goal threat. He does get good DEFCON. I mean, Liverpool can clean. They've got Alisson in goal, etc., etc. And then they came to a good run of fixtures, and there was a period where that all just came to fruition. And he went 9, 4, blank, 17, 11, 7. And then the whole world wanted him. And it was just one of those ones where you just keep good picks. So all of those guys, all of those guys that I've just mentioned, and there's some others maybe, worked out well of just not transferring guys out.
Sort of like because we were harping on the same thing on our pod, like Foden for my team and stuff, and it's sort of like an inelegant way of saying it, but I think what I said was something along the lines of like I sold the regression candidate right before the regression. I literally sold when they were at their absolute bottomed out. It can't be worse, right? They blanked 6 games in a row or whatever, still playing 90. And then it's like, that's actually when smart investors or better FPL players would buy, right? Because they're saying, forget the points. This guy's playing 90 in a Man City team. That's all I need to know, really, right? And they're striking the ball well. And that, yeah, it's hard to separate sometimes. But yeah, I mean, the Van Dijk is the exact same, right? Everyone sells, they blow some cleans, and he just misses DEFCONs probably a bunch of games in a row. Liverpool obviously not good this season, blah, 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 blah. And you're able to just look at it objectively and be like, still pretty good, you know?
I think actually quite a lot of we got quite a few more questions, as you can see. So what I'm going to try and do, as the chaps know, my jaw is throbbing and my headache is building because of what I said earlier. So I'm going to try and be fairly swift, and we'll be a bit more, because I think a lot of these things are actually kind of in some way covered. You know, like when I think about DEFCON, for example, and rule changes, there's 4 questions actually, which are all more or less about the same thing, and has in some way been kind of covered already. But I do think the simple answer to this group of questions, so to speak, I mean, we'll be in a better position to judge, you know, who will be these DEFCON picks, if that's applicable, obviously when pricing comes out and whether we know that they're going to amend it. I think we're all, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, chaps, but I think it's fair to say that we're all fairly convinced that it's going to stay in some form or another, if not exactly the same, but with amended pricing. And I think, as far as I can tell, the reaction to it has been it's not been as polarized. I know people are polarized about it to a point, but they're not as polarized as, say, assistant manager or in a much different kind of context, all out attack or something, which is, I think I quite enjoyed your discussion about that the other day, Alon, being as
the worst ever chip,
completely retarded chip. That it is. You know, it's genuinely one of those chips, wasn't it? All out attack, where you were like, I might not use this. I might leave it where it is.
My 8th attacker is worse than my 3rd best defender. And you think logically, it's like that happens all the time in FPL. My 3rd defender is good.
But I mean, if we try and group them together, is there anything particular you want to say about your foresight with DEFCON into the new season that you haven't already? I mean, is it something you know, if it is very similar to how it is now, are you going to sort of prioritize that and build around it, or will it ultimately depend on pricing and that sort of thing? Do you think the players who were good at it this year are going to be good at it next year, blah blah blah? There is a point, by the way, at the bottom there about rule changes and game changes, which you can touch on if you want, but
well, I'll probably just say something quickly, and I might just go for a quick turn inside. I know we're nearly finished, but and also I'll say to the chat, like me, Alan and I are probably talking even more than normal because Rich told us he's got bad toothache and he doesn't want to speak as much, so he's just sort of in the chat
there, but it's just a lot of talking and eating, unfortunately, are the two things that they didn't like.
No, I think just quickly, I think obviously DEFCON is definitely going to stay for various reasons. Like they're not going to change them after one season, and it's going to stay. I mean, just on the bottom point, just quickly as well, is they won't. I don't think they'll make any significant changes, but what they might do / might have to do is something about the forwards. I know it's kind of obvious, but forwards were just kind of non-existent, almost. I mean, there's like 3 forwards in the game. I mean, and like Bowen scored as many or more points, or just under the points of Thiago, and Thiago had like 22 goals, and Bowen had like 9. So what is important is that if they make any changes there, which they probably should, but those changes, that's really important. So if it's like they just get 1 more point for a goal, I mean, that's not much. Like maybe they need to do something, but it needs to be that kind of thing with just points for a goal or bonus or both or some kind of thing, because what they cannot do, and I do have faith in Mark, what they cannot do, because the biggest danger, I said all along, as soon as they introduced DEFCON, the biggest danger of that was opening the door to then it trickling down and saying, oh, right, okay, well, we'll do that. We'll just change that in other areas now as well. And we'll have like attacking
chances created,
or
stuff
chances
like that,
created, or shots on target.
I really hope they don't do that.
Absolutely must not do is that, of course, because as we already know with DEFCON, the more information you introduce into the game that's calculable, the better models will do, and the more template it will be, and the models will take over, and it will become more and more boring and more template. And that's already happened with DEFCON, and it's my belief that Mark probably knew / knows that, which is why he just said, okay, we've got to do that. We've got to make them more relevant, but we'll put a 2-point cap on it.
Yeah.
And there'll be nothing more, so it can't get too out of control. So I hope that that's still the case. So if it comes in and suddenly starts saying attacking, points for this and that you can, a bit like Sky, genuinely, and it's not hyperbole, the game is done. It's over. It's just no point. There's already little point in going against the models, like you say, the hedge funds. You introduce even more, and it's just done. You can forget it. And people really need to understand this. So thankfully, I think Mark does.
Yeah.
So if they're going to change something, it needs to be bonus-wise or just points-wise. Keep it really simple.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with the forwards point. I think, obviously, when the game started, and then for the next, 16 years of it since it started, forwards just always the top scorers. Probably the top 10 players for goals in the year were always forwards, with a few, maybe one exception every once in a while. And then you think what sort of happened, Pep, Klopp, sort of like that sort of transitional period was just, Sterling and Sane and Mo and Mane and like all these sort of wingers that are listed as obviously midfielders in the game started being the top scorers, and they never made the change that forward goals and midfielder goals are worth different amount of points, even though like Mo has always essentially been a forward, right? There's not that much difference between a inverted winger and a forward.
And they get a clean sheet point.
And they get a clean sheet point. So it's just imbalanced. It's just not, because you think like, okay, what, like the Leicester season or something, it's Vardy, Kane, Aguero, like there's Lukaku, and there was the Suarez, Sturridge, and there's Rooney and Percy. It was always forward dominated, and now it's just been midfielder dominated for a while, and they haven't really changed it. So it just doesn't make that much sense.
Like you think about it just quickly, it's like, I personally, Haaland aside, of course, because he's an anomaly.
Yeah.
For the last 5 years of playing FPL, I don't captain strikers because they don't get enough points. They haven't got enough potential.
Yeah.
So what world are we living in when we're playing a football fantasy game where strikers, the idea of captaining a striker is kind of silly and foolish.
Yeah.
It
makes
a striker.
No sense.
So that's not right. That needs to change.
Also, the pen takers, I mean, it's part of the same point, but the pen takers always used to be the 9s. Always used to be the number 9. They were the pen takers on every top 10 team in the league. And now it's just, Palmer, Bruno, fucking Enzo Lafay and Sarr and Gordon. There's tons of teams where it's not the striker anymore. And that also is just like a huge dent to the overall pool of points.
One thing I will say as well is, just thinking now in terms of answering those questions as well about changes, is, and I said this early in the season, I think that the changes that have been made, which will have been unintentional, of course, because everything that they do in the game is to increase engagement and interaction with the game. And I do believe that broadly the changes that they've made have reduced interaction with the game because because making transfers isn't as worth it anymore. Like you get a DEFCON guy, you get an Anderson. What's the point in ever transferring him out? You get these guys. There's no point in ever. What's the point? So it doesn't. The incentive to make transfers just isn't there anymore as much as it was, and it's very, very difficult. And obviously, again, in terms of chasing, that's changed as well. You should be able to catch any position. So people are even more demotivated this season. If you weren't on those guys early, you weren't on your Bruno G's and your Rices and your Andersons and so on, just sitting there laughing on the beach. People behind were largely, not completely. Of course, you can get some people and catch up. Largely, we're pretty fucked. It's very, very difficult to catch. So it's the opposite of what they should want in a game of engagement. Is transfers are less of an appeal, and it's harder to catch anyone who's in front of you. Front run, it's easier to be a front runner now, and both of those things are demoralizing and reduce interaction. And that's actually why any changes should be made, because the game isn't right in that sense.
Also, I just personally love a fullback. I love an attacking fullback. That's what FPL was always, go for the attacking fullback. And they kind of just killed them with DEFCONs because no one Trent's not in the league anymore. Robbo doesn't start anymore. No fullback in the entire league gets enough attacking returns to overtake their nailed 90-minute center back who gets DEFCONs. It's not even close, really. So I wish they would do something about that. But I just wanted to also shout out, I recommended this to you guys. I sent it to you on WhatsApp, but I also said it in our post-mortem. There's this great episode of a podcast called Plain English, and the episode is called How Metrics Make Us Miserable. And it's very relevant to FPL, and it's great. But yeah, I thought of you, Danny, because one of the sort of points that's made is just like, metrics sort of force us to play the game that is measurable rather than playing the games you actually value. And I always think, because you're always talking about confidence, you can't argue with someone who says, yeah, but on the model they're this and they get this much XG per 90. Sort of the end of the conversation. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, well, yeah, I guess they're the better pick, right? That's the Ndai KDH thing, right? Every single model is saying Ndai's better, Ndai's on pens, Ndai gets more XG per 90, Ndai gets more shots per 90, and probably more touches in the box. I don't even know. And it sort of ends the conversation where there are all of these other things. Actually hasn't solved the game, right? The top 100 people who finish FPL aren't all FPL review people, or it would just be solved and there wouldn't even be a game anymore to play. So, I agree with you. Like the more, chances created points, shots on target points, all this stuff that sort of just like compresses everything together and means use less transfers, follow more models. It just sort of gross. It's just sort of not like a fun game that you wanna take part in.
Completely agree with all that.
What you said there, Alon, kind of reminded me of. I'm sure we've all seen a film or a television show, or even experienced it in real life. Where like maybe it's a wild, windy moor or some town in like old northern England or whatever, where a couple of strangers walk into a pub and then everyone turns around and looks at them like they're a piece of shit.
Yes.
And I had that experience this year by, I remember at some point, actually after talking to you, Danny, about Hinshelwood in an analytics chat room.
Oh.
When people give you that look like, who?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But it says Welbeck.
Yeah.
He's the only one, because he's got the. But Hinshelwood. Why would you? So I quite enjoyed that.
It's a great podcast episode. I mean, the example he uses is like he has like one of those aura rings or whatever. It tracks like your health stuff. I don't even know what it tracks, your heart rate and your stress levels or whatever. And he's saying like, if I go out drinking, I have a terrible night's sleep on the aura ring every time. No matter how many drinks. You could have 1 drink or 10 drinks. It doesn't matter. It totally fucks up your heart rate and everything and the quality of your sleep. And that's obviously measurable. So logically it's like, okay, I should never go out drinking. But there's no value metric for what it means, the joy you get from meeting up with friends and the value of friendship.
Yeah.
And conversation and being social. There's no number. There's no XG for that, right? So like, yeah, you could live a perfect life and never go to the pub and never meet up with your friends because you always need to get the best sleep. But then, obviously we all know this logically, but then in reality you have no friends and you have no relationships and it's not good. So the numbers do us some positive, but they can also do you harm.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic analogy. And I always think about those two things, and it's absolutely brilliant. And so many people, in my opinion, do. I mean, yeah, I'm the opposite. Unfortunately, I destroy my lifestyle. I never sleep. I drink every single day, put on weight, never sleep, eat at 1 a.m. And I like to think I've had a good time. But yeah, I mean, there are people who they'll tell you they hit all the numbers. They do everything that they're supposed to do, and you think, yeah, but are you actually having any fun? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fantastic.
Just with this kind of last strip of questions, I'm going to try and keep it pretty.
Well, we got to get out of.
I think the top one I'm immediately going to can. Sorry, luxury transfers. It is a lovely question, but which is about this idea of whether we can basically build inactive teams.
Just to say, build a
squad. I mean, Yeah, go on then.
Oh, sorry. Just to say 2 seconds before you move on. With that, we're not going to. We'll move on, like you say. But I will say, I always build a team as if I'm never making a transfer. That's my personal approach. That's what I think you should do. I always do that. I never plan transfers. My game week 1 team is always what I think and hope will be the best team for the whole season. So that's all I want to say there.
Yeah.
And in terms of the one below, fixtures be more important next season. Again, it's very hard to give an answer to that at this stage, isn't it? My instinct would be, from everything I've read so far, promoted teams seem to, again, it's hard to know who to trust, isn't it? But they anecdotally appear like they're going to be likely a bit weaker. I mean, if I take Wolves, by the way, are a good, interesting example here, because I've just seen that they might or have signed Kieran Trippier and Raul Jimenez, which I'm annoyed about now as a West Ham fan, because I'm like, oh god, that looks really good actually. It's exactly the kind of players I'd like probably in this situation. But anyway, you tend to think that they will be somewhat weaker than what's gone down, at least in the case of West Ham and maybe Wolves.
I also think you're misremembering the question asker. I mean, go look at Burnley's match log. Go look at Wolves' match log. There are plenty of 5-0 absolute thrashings. Even though we think of Arsenal as like they never score more than 1 goal and they're a defensive nightmare. I mean, they absolutely beat the shit out of a lot of teams. Even like teams that were nowhere near going down, like Leeds or whatever. I mean, they beat Leeds 5-0 in game week 2. They destroyed Tottenham and Sunderland and all these teams, so I don't know.
I can definitely see why Enormous Mike, basically this is, Mike. Well, Mike has had various sizes across the season, and we've already said that Enormous, might sound good, but can you really work with Enormous? So it's tricky.
True.
But all I will say is that last season was because it stands out as an example of a season where you could have, to some extent, ignored fixtures and just picked Arsenal defenders for every game and picked Anderson for every game and whatever, and gotten away with picked Senesi every week, and all of that would have worked out perfectly fine, right? So I can see why it's a question that's raised. But you're right. I think there are more thrashings than perhaps we recall. I don't know. Interesting one. But it was a low scoring season, so again, there's validity in that. How to avoid a bad start. And then I think the last question I find the most interesting to finish off on anyway. Avoiding a bad start. Well, I think, I mean, actually, again, that kind of relates a little bit to our discussion earlier about picking a squad that you feel like you can work with over a long period of time and following Daddy's advice and not planning for immediate transfers. But what do you guys thought? I mean, Alon, you are probably the only person we should talk to about that one.
How to avoid a bad start. Just copy my team.
Just play.
Stupid.
Play your natural game.
Yeah, just copy my goddamn team. I picked the best 4-5 defenders. I picked the best 5-5 midfielders. That's like my bread and butter is that. But no, I mean, honestly, ownership does tell you a lot, and wisdom of the crowd is a real thing. And for the most part, trying to beat all of those is wrong. You don't want to go against all of them, not just because they're all good, but because they all make sense for some reason, whether that be fixtures or form or, price bracket that they're in, or flexibility like we talked about earlier. So, don't try, and it's the most tempting thing ever in July when you could say, but if I don't go Holland, I can get, Osimhen and Isak, and that's fucking amazing. Whatever, I'm making up names. Just don't do it. It's wrong. I can tell you right now, it's wrong. Even if it's right, it's wrong. Even if Holland blanks his first 3 and those guys score, it was still wrong, because I'll just get Osimhen. I'll just get Isak. And if it goes the other way around, this was a Walshism of last preseason. If he goes against Holland and Mo in game week 1, and Holland hat tricks against Wolves in game week 1, and he doesn't own him, he's wildcarding in game week 2.
Yeah.
It's emergency. I'm taking on water. We're sinking, DEFCON 5 nightmare. I'm wildcarding just to get one player. That's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's always been said over the years, and it's always been my approach is, you know, I know it's sort of cliche, but you're not going to win FPL in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can go a long way to making sure that you don't win FPL in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And everybody, you know, you just have to be flexible. I always say, just assume that everything you think is right is wrong,
Yep.
and it's very
100%.
likely that an awful lot of it is. Very, very likely that an awful lot of it is. So we go through the same rigmarole where, after months of content and threads and videos and all this shit and the models and everything, everybody really in general is absolutely convinced they know what the best Game Week 1 team. And you have to remember that it's very likely that they're extremely wrong in many, many ways. So you have to be really sort of independent in your thinking. But again, don't try, you know, that means that be sensible within that, you know. So you do have Haaland, you do have Bruno, you know, you are captaining logical players at first because we don't know anything. So, you know, just go with, don't make the bets too big and just be flexible as well.
I miss Mo, man. I already miss Mo. This is going to be the first time in so long that we just don't automatically have Mo Game Week 1, and he's the best pick in the game.
I know. Jeez.
I did read somewhere, this is probably absolute rubbish, but this, you know, the idea that he'd immediately saw Slot was fired and told the agent to come to the clubs, like, let me back.
That'd be really funny. Yeah.
So you never know. Speaking of, I mean, this will finish on this one. Our instinct about any kind of, you can name a couple if you like. Any? Do you know what? When I planned this, Danny, I was actually going to just, we won't do it, but go to the clubs and just whip through who we wanted to talk about in terms of like people who are interesting. But I think we just have to pick a couple of players or something that we have really got our eyes on staying. So I think let's ignore Haaland, Bruno, Gabriel as a like off the cuff instinct here, and see if there's anyone we pick up, and we can kind of almost do it as a bit of a rondo for those fans of the Tifo podcast. I don't know if there's anyone who likes that here, but they do a kind of thing like this. But I mean, I've already said Szoboszlai is someone who, if you know, this is the problem is, of course, with a new manager, you can't quite work out, but it's definitely someone who is in my thinking probably on that at a dangerous level of bias because of not acting on instinct sooner. And of course, it is a new season, and it could be very different. But well, let's just go around and perhaps we can chip in with sort of a few minutes on this. Alon, is there anyone who immediately think I've just in your head? I would actually no. There is another one who's immediately in my head, and I have to say it now, and I'm going to ruin it for everyone else. But obviously, because I absolutely love him, and me and Danny only owned him when he absolutely hauled. Just Gibbs White, I absolutely fucking love that guy.
So good.
You know,
Such
because
a good
when
player.
I was thinking about the team that I'm going to have to force to support on the FPL website this season, Frenchie, a guy who's in our SKLW team, he said, "You bloody love Forest players," because obviously we love Chris Wood here. We hugely love Chris Wood. We really missed him this season. We love the big sort of lanky centre backs, especially Milenkovic. Yeah, Danny's
there it is. Elliot Anderson.
And Gibbs White has been he's been every season that I've had a draft team. I really like draft FPL, and not that many people play it maybe in comparison, but I've always owned Gibbs White in that format of the game, and he's brilliant to own in that because you just leave him there for the whole season, and you know that he's got it, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are the two people that immediately spring to mind for that question. But Danny, do you want to go next?
Yeah, Gibbs White. Obviously, I was kind of thinking about him. I mean, he's a weird one. Gibbs White. He always ends the season very well, and I'm not sure how well he'd start. You know, it's the only thing with Gibbs White is absolutely fantastic. It's just that obviously, always a thing for me is caliber, and some sense of caliber, what they've got. Like, and I know he's a great player, but you know, you want someone. Obviously, the only risk is he plays for Forest, and you don't know how crap they're going to be, and you don't know when it's going to start this little bit more.
Yeah,
but yeah, I absolutely love him as a pick, and I mean, he's by far the biggest enigma of this season. By the way, he was like the fact that nobody ever owned him, and he's literally the top 6 players. But I mean, the obvious one, I just have to say, I mean, because I'm just thinking about Chelsea players, to be honest, at the moment. I'm thinking about Chelsea players. I'm thinking about Palmer. I'm thinking about the guys who got the summer off. I mean, Palmer, obviously, I'm devastated he's not gone to the World Cup because I think he's such a difference maker. But I'm also glad, because I also know that he needed summer off. He probably needs surgery. He's definitely been injured
His
and carrying
groin's all fucked up. Yeah,
exactly. So, and I hope he can fully recover, and he might not. He might never recover, but hopefully he just needs surgery. He needs a rest, and he's going to get sorted, and he's going to be, because I will always maintain that guy, when he's on it, is just, when he's on it, he's just the best fantasy pick that exists. It's just the best pick in the game. It's just, you can't measure up to Palmer in the way that he's able to score. This guy hat tricks for fun. I mean, he's a ridiculous player. So I've obviously got eyes on him. João Pedro is also getting a rest of the summer, who definitely should have gone to the World Cup.
João Pedro is one of mine.
Yeah, I mean, because they've got, and it's the fact that they've got who you think you've got faith in as a manager. So you just feel like the whole team could be good. I mean, they could have some really.
He's not going to the World Cup, João Pedro.
Oh, can you believe that? How on earth is he not?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even consider that he wouldn't be.
I know, it's insane to me.
That's like we could do a whole analysis on that.
Well, exactly.
That's a Chelsea thing, because he was fucking unreal this year. It was a breakout year. He had a breakout season to star forward levels, and everyone's ignoring him just because of Chelsea. I can't believe he's not going.
I think they generally don't like the teams that play in the Premier League. I don't know. I've heard there's always been harder for the Brazilian players to get in when they play.
Thiago made it.
I know Casemiro as well, I think.
Yeah, Casemiro for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they need players like Casemiro, don't they, to be fair? But so that's insane to me. So you think season off, he's going to be he's going to be pissed off. I mean, obviously Morgan Gibbs-White also should have gone to the World Cup, so he's another one who's getting the whole summer off, and he should have been there.
Yeah.
So so I'm thinking about their players in general, and the defenders, and the prices, and then obviously probably less so Liverpool. I do really rate Areola. I don't think it's as nailed. I mean, I don't think it's as nailed that he's going to be great there as everyone thinks. I mean, I do think he's great.
For sure not. I think it's a huge risk.
Yeah. So, other than that, weirdly, I haven't really thought about anyone else yet, to be honest, because it's just nothing has ever changed as much. I don't think. I'd be interested to see if the league has ever changed as much over summer in terms of managers at clubs and everything else. It must be about 10 or 11 clubs, new managers, not including the promoted teams and stuff. So it's going to be,
it's crazy.
It's very hard to even think about. So.
I have similar thinking to you. I'm always thinking about who underperformed that I still believe in, who's, has a summer off, what teams didn't qualify for Europe. Newcastle every year either overperform or underperform somehow. Right? They're either in Europe and they're shit, or they're out of Europe and it's like, are they the third best team in the league or the fourth best team in the league? Right. So, and obviously Gordon's already in Barcelona. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's the Harvey Barnes here. Maybe Bruno G is just on pens all year and he's just number 10 all year. Right. So I'm thinking about Newcastle guys. I'm definitely curious about Liverpool guys for the main reason being is just how low will they go for prices? That's what I'm curious about. Is there going to be a 5 million nailed center back playing next to Van Dijk? What is Soboslai's price? What is Isak's price? Isak could have a 5-goal World Cup, and what's he going to come in at? 9.5? He started 5 games, So there's I'm just looking for underpriced guys when it comes to Liverpool. Chelsea, I really believe in Alonso, and I think he'll do a great job. So I definitely agree on Pedro and Palmer and Enzo. Enzo was underratedly good in FPL this year when he was fit. And I just think he's just such a great player. So if he's there, and he's playing sort of the Verts role that Alonso played in Leverkusen, he could be a machine. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good list. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, just to kind of return it right back to the start, actually a team that I think could have an underrated impact on some of the names we've mentioned here. Obviously, Gibbs, White and Anderson are going to be the subject of huge interest over the window, aren't they? They didn't qualify for Europe. People were always interested in them, and so on and so forth. They could be Forest could be an excellent set of picks for us next season. They're underpriced. The centre backs could be back down to, you know, 5 million or whatever it might be, and they could be really decent picks again. Goalkeeper, probably even more so, maybe even a 4-5 keeper, you know, again, that could be quite reasonable. And if Anderson and Gibbs White, blah, blah, blah. But if they lose those players, or if Anderson goes to a City or whatever it might be, then suddenly they're of no interest whatsoever. So it is that they're a really interesting one. So a Bournemouth.
Well, also, like,
so, yeah.
just sort of like theory crafting, like Anderson got 515 DEFCONs this season. If he leaves and say the rest of the team broadly stays together, those recoveries are going somewhere. Someone, Sangare or, you know, some rando is just going to be like, oh, he's just +5 DEFCONs a game from where he was last year, right? Because, like, he's just going to be, they're going to be making the tackles. They're going to be going for the recoveries. Maybe they're not as good as Anderson, but they're going to go somewhere if they're playing in a
Someone's going to sign Matthias Fernandes, you know.
M Fern. Yeah. So there's going to be
guys.
guys.
Yeah, do it, Danny. I know Manchester United have often been linked with. Fernandes
Baleba, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Baleba on United, yeah.
Yeah, it only dawned on me the other day, by the way, this is a purely West Ham point, that I've forgotten that when you do go down to the Championship, you know, where everyone raids your players, and obviously that I knew that, but I'd forgotten that usually Premier League teams, they wait until the end of the transfer window because they know you're vulnerable, and then they take them then.
Yeah.
So like all summer, I'm going to be like, oh God, and then they'll just pluck Bowen, pluck Mavropanos, you know. Oh.
Yep.
It'd be awful.
God.
Anyway, how depressing. Not a way to finish. We could have talked for a lot longer, especially if I hadn't been grumbling about my tooth, which is on the mend, just so don't worry, everyone. Sorry about there. So thank you, Alon, once again. We are looking for, I mean, hopefully at some point, you know, I know you've got a little trip to England at some point, so hopefully we can talk about that at some stage. Do make sure you follow Alon and FML FPL. All the links will be on our bits and pieces below. They're covering the World Cup. We're not. So yes, you can watch back episodes of this over and over and over again. Actually, strangely enough, I should shout him out. I bumped into an old friend in Norwich the other day when I was up having my tour, who didn't know anything about this podcast. I hadn't seen him for so long. He was like, "You do a podcast on the?" Yes. So hello, John. Watch this. Get better at FPL. He, by the way, broke my toe once in a football match, so I haven't forgiven you, John. But anyway, that's a completely aside. But yes, thank you. We know we've taken up a lot of your time, so split it into 3 chunks if you need to over the summer, and
watch it after the World Cup.
Could do.
You don't need to even watch it now.
By then, the tooth will be fine.
There we go.
So yeah, no problems at all. And like I said, please do let us know if there's anything you want to see here next year. We're up for it. We'll certainly be excited to do this all again and fail in a different way next time. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Alon, again, and we hope you have a lovely summer.
You too.
Cool.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
We'll see you soon.